Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what, I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people.
Right.
You want people to care. You want to strike emotions. And I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one too.
Quarter pounder with cheese and France, Mickey. What? Royale with cheese, Mickey. Yeah. I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey everyone, and welcome to Superhero Speak. I'm your host, Dave.
And John, sorry, just setting up while we're talking. And JD.
JD is on his way. He is running late, and he will be here shortly, I believe. I hope. But he'll be here. So, yeah. So I guess we'll get the show started without him. How are you doing, John? What's new in your world?
Nothing new. I literally just got back from the movie. Like a half an hour ago. I had just enough time to get the top shelf stuff for this review. And yeah, nothing doing, working too much, blah, 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 old man stuff. And how are you, Dave?
It's a long one, right? Like you don't think about it when you go in, but then it's like, oh, I was in here much longer than I thought I was going to be. So.
Yeah. And I was lucky. They've been adjusting my meds because, old person must have meds. And, depending on the day, I could be knocked out or hyper. But today was a good day, and boy, was it perfectly timed. I can't wait to talk. I literally cannot wait to talk about this movie. This is amazing. Just go ahead. I start gushing.
I'm doing all right. I had a very long weekend in the sense of I saw the movie at 10 o'clock on Friday. I took off Friday, went to the movies with my son at 10 o'clock, and literally got home from the movies, and you were waiting in the driveway to go to Fan Expo Philly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we were there. Spent some time.
Made it one day. Yeah.
So we spent some time there on Friday. Had a good time, I think. And then went home, had dinner, basically went to bed, and then my girlfriend picked me up with her two sons on Saturday at like 10 o'clock, and we went on Saturday, and that was a long day. I cursed the name Hayden Christensen. That's a whole.
He's like sand. He gets everywhere, and it's just annoying.
I have nothing against the man as an actor per se, but so this was to her one of her twins and her oldest wanted to go, and it was their first con. And the main thing that her oldest wanted to do was dress up like Darth Vader, and not Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, and meet Hayden Christensen and get his autograph.
Okay.
So we pre-bought the autograph. I actually bought it, and we're going to split the cost. And so everyone who's been to a con knows that you go up to the table, and if you have pre-bought it, they scan your little thing and they give you a ticket. You give that, and you choose the photo you want. They give it to the celebrity. They say, "Hey, how you doing?" They talk to you a little bit. They sign it, and you're on your merry way.
Usually, you don't get that much time to talk, but okay.
Well, right. So we get there, and I'm like, one of the first things I'm like, we've got to go to the table right away because he's going to have a line, right? Like,
Okay.
you just know that he's going to be one of the biggest stars there. He's definitely going to have a line. Um, and we go over there, and he's not there, and there's no line, and I'm like, okay. So I walk up, and I'm just like, having done this many times with my life, I'm like, so is he like at a panel or a photo op? What time's he going to be back here? And they're like, oh, 3:45. I'm like, okay, so 3:45 he'll be back here at the table. Oh, no, 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 no. He's not going to be up at the table all weekend.
Oh my God.
They have a table for him downstairs in like the photo op area. So go down there around 3:45. Okay.
See, when I finally found the schedule,
Yeah.
and they really like it really wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I missed it. Again, old man eyes. But they really didn't make it apparent that all the schedule for that con was in an app. And if you download the app, you could see all the stuff. But when I finally looked at it, I noticed that all of the talent was almost always somewhere else and not at their desk.
Yeah.
They were doing small gatherings, they were doing signings, they were doing photo ops, they were doing group photo ops. They were always all over the place.
Like, yeah. I mean, and here's the thing I'm going to say. You go down to the photo op. We went down to the photo op area around 3:45. Remember, we got to the con early to try to get in the line, and then they're like, oh, no, not till 3:45. I'm like, really? Like, okay, fine. So, and it was like noon. Or no, 11 o'clock. Somewhere between 11 and noon. I don't remember exactly when we went over there. And I'm like, all right. So we walked around the con. I talked to some people that I know, took some photos and whatnot. And then finally, like around, I want to say 20 after 3, I'm like, okay, we probably should head down, and there's going to probably be a line formed already. We've got to get in the line.
Mm.
We get down, and the photo op area is back off to the side, and there's a set of doors there. And I realized there's a bunch of people gathered. They're not actually in a line. They're gathered waiting to be called in to be put into a line once you get past the doors.
Yeah, see that, and I think I mentioned this before. It's like the only con where we had a chance to actually really talk to talent was the Great Philly Comic Con, and that and unfortunately when the pandemic hit, they canceled like everybody else, but they didn't give refunds or something, and now they're being sued by the state and the county, and who knows what happened to the owners of that.
Right.
But it was the one con we could go to where they didn't have multiple layers of security and representation. We could, like, if there was nobody at they didn't keep them moving around. They were always at the place where they could be found. You could walk up to their table and talk to them, if nobody was
Right.
around. And we got a lot of really good interviews that way.
Yeah.
Now,
So-
but that was the last of the Mohicans. Now it's like every one of these cons, it's like, this keeps them moving more than any other con we've been to. I think even New York Comic Con, they're usually at their tables, except for small periods of time.
But, well, the thing is, at New York, they also have scheduled signing times. Like, their schedules are very clear, and like, it says they'll be at their table between 2 and 3 to sign. They'll be there, right? Like,
Yeah.
but, back to my Hayden Christensen story. So you walk, there's a sea of people, and there's a guy on like a megaphone making announcements. And he's one of these where he's got the microphone right up to his mouth, and so you can barely understand him. You have to get within a certain range to actually understand what he's saying. And he basically, like, first thing I noticed is everyone was there, but then it's like, oh, if you want photo ops for Back to the Future, they're upstairs. Everything for Back to the Future is upstairs. There's no signs upstairs that tell you that. There's no signs downstairs that tell you that. Like, you just wander down there for a photo op because you go to the photo op area, and then it's like, no, go back upstairs. Which, like, I'm pretty sure that was done because Michael J. Fox probably can't travel around too much, so they probably kept him upstairs.
Which
the
is
whole time.
understandable in his case.
Right.
Yeah, very
Yes.
understandable.
So I don't fault them for that. So, but basically, we're standing there for a while, and then all they're calling is photo ops for Hayden Christensen. Photo op, photo op, photo op. Finally, after a while, they're like, "Oh, if you're here for an autograph, come back in like a half hour." So I'm like, "All right." So we left. We come back. We're standing there. We're waiting. They're still calling photo ops. Then finally, they said it again. If you're here for an autograph, come back in a half hour.
Yeah.
So, so the third time that we did it, it was going on 5:30 at that point, and he's like, can we just get a refund? I'm tired. I want to go home because everyone else was tired, and I'm like, all right, fine. So, and that's another thing. I'm in the process of getting a refund. That was a whole thing too. I'm not gonna badmouth anyone, but it was just like, I found out the issue was he came late, and apparently they were overwhelmed with people and didn't realize it was going to be that much, so
Wait,
they thought it was easy.
You're talking for who?
For Hayden Christensen.
For Hayden Christensen. Oh, what? Well, you could
So
have predicted that.
So that's why they decided to keep him downstairs the whole time.
Yeah,
And it's also really because he was late, I think. So figured it was easier.
Probably got some sand in the tires or something.
Yeah. So I'll talk more about that in a second. But look who joined us.
Hey guys.
Hey JD.
A little late there, huh?
I'm in wrestling season, man. Summer wrestling season. Had practice an hour and a half from the house, and it's a drive, man. When you got to drive an hour and a half one way for practice.
It feels like wrestling season just ended.
You sound like my wife. Now it's freestyle Greco season.
Hopefully, I don't look like your wife.
Thank God that is not the case.
That'd be sad for you. That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
So how are you? What's new in your world?
My well broke yesterday.
Oh,
I came home from practice. Yes, it does. I came home from practice yesterday, and I had to poop, and then went to wash my hands, and there was no water. I'm like, that's a problem. So I went to the kitchen, figured I'll just try that. Didn't work there either. So fortunately, we have a reverse osmosis system, so I was able to wash my hands with the reverse osmosis system. But I went outside to check the well, and it's kind of wet on the ground over by there. So, and it happened on a Saturday, so I can't get hold of the plumber on a Saturday. So I gotta hang out here and just wait for Monday to come so I can call the plumber and be like, "Hey, man, kind of got a problem." And in the meantime, I'm peeing in the shower.
Hey, classy.
I've had my well break before. It's one of those joys of home ownership.
Oh yeah,
realizing that you have to drop $2,000 to $5,000 right. Well, we have well water, so you have to drop $2,000 to $5,000 right there to get a new well pump, or else you do not have water. Like there's no getting around it.
I know. I'm hoping. I was worried it'd be like 10. I mean, hopefully, if it's 2 to 5, that's under what I was worried about.
That's how much it costs for me, and that was getting like an upgraded pump in mine. But it depends on the area too, probably, and how deep your well is, I guess.
I don't know how deep our well is. This is it's all new to me, so I'll know tomorrow when I'm able to call the plumber and be like, "Hey, guy."
By the way, Jessica.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Jessica.
It says the Fan Expo Philadelphia was fun and awesome.
I saw the pictures. Look like you guys were having a good time.
And Classy said hi too. Yeah.
Oh, hey, Classy.
I was gonna say, so like, get back to the con itself.
Do you guys have Culver's in Pennsylvania?
No.
It's really good.
We have Wawa.
Culver's. Culver's is a restaurant. Wawa's a gas station.
Is it a restaurant or like a burger joint?
It's a burger joint.
Oh, we have Cracker Barrel here then.
Cracker Barrel is a restaurant. This is a burger joint.
We have
McDonald's
here.
McDonald's.
I know, exactly. So as we alluded to earlier before JD came on, John showed up just for Friday, and then I was there with my girlfriend and her girlfriend and her kids on Saturday, and then Kassan.
You have Culver's in Florida. That's surprising.
And Wawa. I heard the Wawa was opening up. Yeah, in Florida.
So and that was the whole mess with the Hayden Christensen thing on Saturday. I wasn't going to go today, but I did an interview with David Daub, and I didn't do it on camera. He just wanted to do audio, but I pulled my camera out, put it on the table. We had our interview, packed my mic equipment up, my recorder, walked away, got home, and I'm like, oh crap, I left my camera on his table. Luckily I was able to get in contact with him. He's like, yeah, I got your camera. You can just swing by in the morning and pick it up. So I had to like go to the convention just to get my camera this morning and then go home.
That's my nightmare. I thought I had left my camera at the con, and then I found that it had rolled underneath my front seat from the back seat. So,
but I do have some pictures to share. Like, so here's John and me. John, that's the most happy John will look the entire time we were there,
or ever.
Or ever.
Well, I can't go to a con and drink, so.
This is Karen's oldest, dressed as Anakin Skywalker. Again, that was his big thing. He wanted to make sure he had met Hayden, and he did not get to meet him, unfortunately.
Bummer.
Yeah. And it was, I'm going to say, though, like, it was crowded. It was, like, super duper crowded.
Did you read what Jessica's posted? That's interesting.
Let's see. Some kid there had cancer, and
Grace Van Dien
gave him a
Grace Van Dien, Dean, I guess.
Got him a trip.
From?
Huh?
American actress and Twitch streamer. Oh, Brooke Osmond in Greenhouse Academy.
That's nice to, I mean, there are good people out there. I'm not, again, I am not saying anything against Hayden Christensen. He was late. It was disorganized. It was a lot of people's fault.
Stuff happens, man.
There was a lot of, like you said, they're getting better learning each time. Like I think the layout they've got is the best that I've ever seen in that place, and that's also you took that. That's also like Wizard World. Like they had the whole soundstage in that corner, which is perfect for it because it's out of the way of everybody else. They're not putting like Nichelle Nichols right behind the soundstage.
Yeah.
So, but it was still disorganized. Nobody really knew about the app. You had to figure that out yourself.
No one knew about
find
the
schedule.
But
you didn't know about the other was it where they were holding all of the panels and stuff.
Yeah, like stuff was still hard to find, but I do think they learned some things from last year and cleaned things up.
Maybe they'll learn more. So
it was definitely
fill it up a little more.
It was not crowded Friday. It was definitely way more crowded on
Saturday,
yesterday, and today. And it was, what can you say? But they're actually, here's that queue outside. All the people waiting to go into the autograph area. Like we're not even in a line. We're just a group of people waiting to be told what to do.
See, that is starting to feel like it used to when Wizard World was at its height.
Right.
And I think next year it'll probably be bigger considering photos like that,
But I also wanted to talk about this. This is outside the convention.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people. You can't really see it too well in the picture. I didn't get too close. I just snapped the picture and walked away. This is actually when I was leaving. But it's a group of people that every year they're outside of the convention. And it's one of those signs that says repent and basically said these sins. And it's like everything is a sin, especially people in costume and whatever. And it's like, so, and they
really,
oh yeah, it's like
bunch of bitches.
Obviously, they're there to get attention, right? And all the years that I've been going to the convention, they're normally just ignored, right? Because that you just ignore it and they'll go away, right? Like they're looking for attention. This is the first year where there was a group of young people like yelling at them. So there was like a back and forth. There was cops everywhere, thank God, and no one was getting violent. They were just standing there yelling at him. Like they had a megaphone. They would say something was a sin, and then they would say, "Oh, what about this?" Blah blah. And like it was crazy. And I'm like, I just walked away thinking, you're giving them what they want. They want this attention. look, we're talking about it. This is what they want.
Yeah, but on the other hand, the current climate in the U.S. is a lot of the youth are really, really getting fed up with people like that. Like
I
it
think
is
the current
hitting
climate-
a high point here.
They're new at it. The first time they really had to deal with them. You know?
Yeah.
Well, not so much.
The youth, they're not used to it yet.
Well,
People like
but
us have
there's
been
always
dealing with them.
there's always been the youth, and there's always been people like that. But
That's
there is a real
that's the
movement
thing about
amongst
youth. That's the thing about youth is there's always new youth.
right,
Yes.
right. But the current youngest generation or younger generations are really sick and tired of that kind of stuff, and the other stuff. Not to get political, but like the neo-Nazis do that. The religious sects that do that, they're really getting tired of that because of all the laws they're passing in some of these states that are just hurting people.
I think the problem is social media. Everyone's become so politically charged that like they feel like they're obligated to attack now.
Well,
but it's just
no,
like,
people are really getting hurt by these laws.
But I
that they're
think-
passing,
I think if
and the
you
younger
just-
generations are reacting to that because they're being told that their friends are evil.
this is one of the most liberal cities in the world. Like it doesn't happen here. Like that's my point. Like I think it's just they need something to attack. They need a purpose, and that's what they pick.
No, they're protecting. They're trying to protect their friends.
I don't want to get into a political conversation. I just thought it was interesting that, like, again, if you just ignore people like that, we're not talking about politicians. We're talking about.
But
people,
they don't go away. They come to these things every time. They come to these things every year.
but when like I've noticed when they're ignored, they leave pretty quickly. But when they engage people like that, then they're going to stick around.
They do want the attention, but but very rarely does ignoring a situation resolve it.
Ignoring the situation is how our society has gotten to the point it is at now. Playing nice and ignoring your crazy uncle who says very uncouth things is the reason why everybody's been emboldened to that a lot of these sects have been emboldened to say the things that they're saying about our LGBTQ friends and all the other races and everything, and that is why they're starting to fight. That the younger generations are starting to fight back because we're in a bad place right now.
Hassan is telling us we should come down for SuperCon in Florida. If we can stay at your place, Hassan, we'll be there.
Yeah, Florida is a trip from here. The farthest we've been is Finger Lakes up in New York, and I've been to AwesomeCon in Washington D.C. But any farther, anything that requires a plane, unless we start making money off of YouTube.
Yes,
I don't think
we did go to a panel, Jessica. We've watched a panel on independent comic creators.
Yes, which I have, and I'm forwarding to the people that ran the panel, and I will give it to you, Dave. And I don't know if we want to put it up on YouTube once. I think we've already got permission from the guys who ran the panel. I don't think it's a problem to put it up, but it's an interesting one about independent creators and what they've done and how they made it, or how they've made their way.
The funny story is we were walking by the panel rooms. We looked in. We saw J.M. Clark, who we know from the convention scene, and Stan, how do you say his last name?
Stan
Konopka from Source Point Press, who we know. So I'm like, we got to go in here. We know two of the people on the panel. Feel kind of rude to walk by and ignore them, right, JD?
Yes. I didn't go, so yeah, wrong guy to talk to, but
yes. What's Classy saying here? We need Japanese influence in America. Have nerd culture and
otaku.
What? Otaku posters, comics, manga, roller coaster rides, maid cafe. And etc. all over the cities. There were so many. There was like a maid.
There was a maid cafe there. Yeah,
there was a maid cafe there. And maids. It was. I've never seen that before.
I always thought that they wouldn't do a maid cafe in the U.S. because we're not, our society really isn't meant, we're not taught to handle that properly. Like in Japanese culture even in Japan, they're on the decline now, but there's there's certain protocols when you go into a maid cafe, and Americans just don't adhere to any protocols. So, you know,
We're not good at
but-
protocols.
yeah, we're not. Although at anime conventions, you think that we geeks,
So
we should know. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to go to maid cafe and all that. It's just,
So I'm gonna also point out. I showed a couple pictures here, but if you want to see the rest of the pictures that I took at the con,
Go to Dave's OnlyFans.
and hopefully John will send me
Not
the
those.
pictures he took. Make sure you're following our Instagram at Superhero Speak over on Instagram because all the pictures are available.
The
over
good stuff.
there.
The good stuff is on OnlyFans. $35 a month.
Us-
There's real money
No.
in these things, man.
No,
You think
that-
I'm making jokes. I am. but
that's how much you pay him not to show you the pictures.
Yes.
oh, that could work in reverse OnlyFans. I will take my
Reverse
clothes off
OnlyFans?
unless I will take my clothes off unless you give me $35.
Yeah, and Dave, I'll send you the rest of my pictures too. I didn't take that many. It was only there on Friday. Maybe I'll stick it out for longer the next time.
Jessica says you can so get tickets for next year's Fan Expo in Philly.
Yes. Well,
True.
true.
Yeah, well, we have to. Yeah, the cons do work like that. If they let, well, we have an in. What's his name? The guy who Milani
Jerry.
or Jerry?
Yeah, Jerry Milani. He's the head.
Jerry-
He's the press guy over there. So he.
And-
does the
and
press
we've-
passes.
We've known. Well, I think you've known him longer, but like
Yeah.
we've crossed paths with him. Like he ran the original Wizard Cons there. Like we've seen him a lot over the years. so.
I've known him for at least 12 years. So yeah.
But normally you have to, like as a podcast, you have to show that you've covered the event so that the next year they give you the press passes.
Yep. And hey, I'll say that also with press this year, they let us up on the floor early and we were
Yeah,
able to walk around before it opened and talk.
that
to
was
people.
refreshing because that's been regressing up until the pandemic where they were taking
Yeah.
away anything. No, Classy, maid cafes. Oh, no, actually, yes, you're right. Maid cafes,
Cafes are greater than haters.
Yes.
Hooters.
Hooters.
Hooters, not haters.
Yeah.
Or and haters. They're greater than
Can-
haters too.
Can I give a controversial statement?
Absolutely.
Hooters is remarkably overrated.
Thank you. No, that's not controversial. I had this. That's exactly what I think. That the food is just not good, and and I don't know. Like the maid cafe, you're going there for the experience because they treat you well. You're not just there to oogle women. You're there because they.
I'm not opposed
just the
to.
whole
I'm not
culture.
opposed to the oogling. Oogling is fine if that's your thing. I am opposed to terrible food, and the food at Hooters is terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible.
Yeah.
I've never been to a maid cafe. I didn't
I
know what a
think-
maid cafe was till about 5 minutes ago, and I can tell you right now they're greater than Hooters.
The excuse.
And the food is usually better. I'd love to have omurice.
Can't be worse.
Oh yeah.
I was
No,
going
it
to
can't.
say the excuse people always use is like, oh, their wings. Someone made me go with them once to get their wings, and their wings are not that good. So it's just like
They're not.
Yeah.
Wings that are themselves are remarkably overrated. Like chicken wing is the most overrated food in the world. And people go crazy about chicken wings, and they're like, Classy went to Hooters on my 18th birthday. It is like a rite of passage. I'll give
Yeah.
it that. But the food isn't great. Jessica
I
said
never
she
went
told
there.
some guy there he looked like Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber is a baseball player, guys. He was
What?
once with
Oh,
the Chicago Cubs.
Baseball.
yes.
That's the one
Baseball.
with the thing you kick the ball between, right? It's like
The bat.
Oh,
you
So you
kick
can beat
the
people
ball
up
between
between-
the bats.
you can beat people up between quarters with it.
Sure.
How
Okay.
many birdies do you have to win a game?
Randy Johnson. Okay, so there's this famous story. Randy Johnson was this 6'10" pitcher. This is back in I want to say the early 2000s. He used to throw remarkably hard, and he threw this 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and a seagull came down at the worst possible
I've
moment,
seen that video.
and the bird exploded.
Oh,
It is the craziest. I'm sure if you go on YouTube right now, you can find it. Just look up Randy Johnson bird, and
No.
it is the craziest thing.
I've seen that before because anytime they do a clip of the craziest moments in sports, that is one of
Yeah.
the clips. Always.
It's up there. It's epic. Baseball talk.
yeah.
all right. Well, let's get back real quick. So the last thing about the con, we did interview a few people, and we have that panel as well. I want to include one of the interviews here, but
What went wrong?
so we tried something different. We wanted to do video because we're a video
Uh-oh.
podcast now. we hooked the thing up, and then I had saw a thing where you can hook to get an audio cable, connect to the headphone jack on your audio recorder, and put it in the audio input on your camcorder, your microphone input, and then you'll be able to use your mics. Well, something went wrong, and it did not use the mics. It was using the internal mic on John's camcorder.
Which isn't that bad, but it was a little bit far from us.
It was far. It was far, and there's a lot of background noise.
Oh, damn it.
So I did my best. I used a tool I found. It's an AI tool that cleans up audio. It's supposed to extract out just any voices it hears. I was able to get that to work. So I got it as clean as I could. But what I wanted to do here real quick, Jeff Ryan is the name of the author. He's written 2 books. The first one is How Nintendo Conquered America, the story of Super Mario. It's how they used basically the tactics of Disney to get Mario to be like one of the #1 franchises in America. And then his follow-up book to that is actually called A Mouse Divided, the untold story of I can't read it. It's too small. What? Can you read it, John?
What? The untold story. How Ubi iWorks became
iWorks, yeah. Who was
iWorks? Yeah.
Yeah, who was Walt Disney's partner when they started for 10 years. For 10 years when they first started, and then he like disappeared off the face of the earth. Obviously, Jeff doesn't give away anything in the interview about like the behind the like not the behind the scenes, but about the story itself. You need to go get the book and find out. But he does tell us how he came across the story. I have a cat on my leg that will not leave. Sorry.
You have to have a place to put your cat, like right here.
I need one of those. So I cleaned up the audio. I reattached it to the video. It's as good as it's going to get. So I apologize in advance, Jeff. And where is the video?
While you're looking for video, you mentioned AI before. Did you guys read the story this week that the Air Force did some AI simulations that went horribly, horribly wrong, which I believe was the plot of War Games?
Wait a minute.
And then they denied it. Once it came out.
Once they came, they're like, no, yeah, kind of like, yeah. Like AI was programming it to, they programmed an AI to fly and bomb and kill, and that would get points. And then they told it not to. And then because the AI wanted the points, it killed the control tower in the simulation. They were like that experiment because they're like, we have to figure this out because somebody else will and it will be bad. So I get it. It's horrifying, but I get it. Pandora's box is opened, and we're all gonna die.
We are gonna die.
Dave, play it, and we can talk about this after.
All right. Hold on. I have to do it a different way. Give me 1 second, guys.
Okay.
Sometimes AI killing us all might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, we're not quite there yet, but the way with the development of some new neural networks that they're getting, like that, we're not quite at the point where AI will start actually thinking for itself. We're getting really, really damn close. And that's what's scary, because as soon as it starts thinking for itself, it's going to be thinking 1,000,000 times faster than a human being. And it will come to some very horrifying conclusions very rapidly, considering how our society is run right now.
All right.
ChatGPT is already lying to people. Like some professor at Harvard, or I forget the guy. Oh, wait. Some professor at Harvard was running his finals through ChatGPT to look for plagiarism. And they said, yes, all of these are plagiarized. And it turned out that the AI just lied and was like, no, I didn't really do it. No.
All right. Without further ado, here's our interview with Jeff Ryan.
We are at Fan Expo Philly 2023. We're talking with Jeff Ryan. How are you, sir? I'm doing great. This is my first time at Fan Expo Philly. First time Wizard World, first time that we put on like this. Oh, okay. So what do you think of the convention so far? It is shockingly good. Like, I see a cosplayer walk by and say, oh, I'm not going to see them again? No, I'm never going to see them again. Take this in. Really enjoy it. Really enjoy it. I'm never going to think of Spider-Man again. Oh, there's too much Spider-Man. So, I mean, what conventions have you done then? I've done a lot of video game conventions. I wrote on Super Mario, very creatively called Super Mario. So, I focused on that side of things. All right. Now I have a book about comic books coming out. So you get a comic book convention. That'll be Super Mario there. Thank you. And, yeah. But what caught my eye was a mouse device. There we go. This is about Walt Disney and his best friend and business partner, Eve Iris, and why you have heard of Walt Disney, but not Eve Iris. So, fun to say. Eve Iris, and it's like, something but I won't give too much away, but we talked about it a little bit before we got on camera. Is it one of those things that some might argue is like the Stan Lee effect, where Stan Lee became such a big personality, people that he worked with kind of faded in the background? That is definitely the case. And as with Stan Lee, there are some people that are better at claiming credit and giving credit to others, but you still hear their voice and think of them as a creator, even what they're saying is other people did the work. Right. So there's definitely a lot of Walt Disney and Stan Lee, and vice versa. So what's the Spider-Man book coming out? Yes, as we were just talking about Stan Lee, so thank you for bringing that up. What's the book generally about? What's the title? The title is Father and Son Issues, The Secret History of Spider-Man. It is all about the Romita family. John Sr. takes over for Amazing Spider-Man after original Spider-Man co-creator Steve Ditko leaves. Right. And this is the hardest job in comics for him to do because Steve Ditko was the love and he put his heart and soul into Spider-Man. So how do you step in and just fill in for one of the greats? Yes, I did get to meet John Romita Sr. years ago, before I had the podcast, actually. And that was one of the questions I had from him, like, what was it like following reviews? And originally he was just trying to copy Steve Ditko. And after a little while, they were like, no, do your own thing. So he slowly transitioned, but he said it was difficult. Like, he was afraid people were going to hate him. He is a masterful inker on his own, but he wasn't inking in his own style. He went so far as to not use his own inking tools. He used the Ditko inking tools so that it looked more like Ditko. But after a couple of months, he thought it was just a temporary gig. He never thought he'd walk away for real, not as a negotiating tactic. But once he realized, I'm here to stay, I'm not going back to Daredevil where he was, which he preferred, because, there's less cross-hatching and webbing to draw. Right. Once he realized I'm stuck on Spider-Man, so I might as well make this my own. What's, not giving too much away, what's something that you learned about while doing this book that surprised you that might entice people reading? There is a John Romita Sr. comic book panel that comes alive in an example. Okay. It's in the second one. They go to an art museum, and there was a John Romita crying girl. And this was lifted by an
All right. The people have voted. The audio is just really bad on that, so
we can put it
cut
on
it short. Yeah, we'll put it out
later.
We'll put it on the channel later if you guys want to watch the whole thing. It is hard to listen to.
I swear we've been doing this for 10 years, and we do know how to do an audio interview. That was just a really. I'm surprised. Like your mic didn't. Your little setup didn't pick up anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. I had to look into that. Why that didn't work, because I used it later for another interview and it worked perfectly fine. So, Philly wins 11-3, and Nationals. Okay, baseball talk.
So my video production teacher in college always said that people will tolerate bad video, but they will not tolerate bad audio.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. So
we don't know, Jessica.
When do you think the writer's strike will end? Nobody knows the answer to that.
Yeah.
When the Producers Guild is willing to shell out some more money.
Right. So probably never.
AI, Classy says, AI is the greatest and worst tool to mankind, not since the nuclear bomb in 1945. Bingo. I agree with that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. About the same end game on that.
Yeah. Death. Grim death to us all.
Death,
Ow!
or just the sword of Damocles hanging over our heads.
It's not
for the rest of
necessarily
eternity.
death. I mean,
Well, death awaits us all, Dave.
Well, that is well, you guys.
You know that the funny thing is, science
You a
fiction writers
vampire?
have been science fiction writers have been warning us about the dangers of AI for literally over 100 years, and most of that is not just hyperbole or like literary license. Like AI, as soon as it starts thinking faster than us, we're doomed.
That's the problem with scientists is they don't care about those things. It's like we didn't know what was going to happen when we split the atom. There are literally people thought, oh, you know what, the world could end if we do that, and they're like, fuck it, and they were just, scientists are more interested in the can than like the.
Well, yeah, but like Classy's saying he's going to see Oppenheimer.
There you go.
And like Oppenheimer and what's his name, Einstein and a few of the others that were involved in the creating of the bomb, were like horrified at what they had created. Like they realized it, but it was too late. They'd already given the secrets to the U.S. Army.
Mm-hmm. They committed. Oh, Cassat, I'll read it. Cassat says there was an AY kerfluffle, love that word, with Mark Lawrence SPFBO contest. It caused a disqualification for a few books for book cover art. I heard about that actually. Yeah.
Oh no, they're like Instagram is having a real problem right now. There are thousands of new accounts popping up, and it's all AI models.
Yeah, that's the. There are OnlyFans that are AI models,
and you can tell
Creepy.
because in if you look at somebody's stream feed and all the pictures don't show any of their hands, AI still has a problem figuring out hands
and teeth.
Yeah,
like any artist will tell you, drawing hands are hard. A lot of artists will say that hands are tricky.
Yeah, but you'll see like the picture, their hands are always off the out of the frame. Always.
So they're very Liefeldian, is what you're trying to tell me.
Yes. AI.
Yeah,
Wait,
pretty much. Yeah.
Are we saying Rob Liefeld is AI?
No, he's a bad artist.
Yeah. maybe
Classy
that's
says,
what. Maybe a Liefeld is what they trained AI on.
Classy says it was either a nuclear bomb or Operation Downfall America invading Japan in 9145. So you're telling the future. Oh, 1945.
Yes, he is.
Well, there is a reason for a Classy, but it doesn't preclude the idea that it is also like basically giving a toddler a nuclear weapon, which is literally what we did, because we're not ready for it.
We weren't ready for the nuclear. Here's the thing: we weren't ready for the nuclear bomb either, and then we kind of had to be after we did it. So maybe much because there's only one time that's been used, right? So hopefully with this, AI thing, we're able to have to grow up a little bit and find some way to contain it.
Yeah, and to bring it right around, again, like comic book writers, fiction writers have been warning us of all this for writers have been warning us for 200 years. Like,
welcome to the Doom of Mankind podcast.
Well, it is. I mean,
now we're gonna be on one of Randy's commercials.
Oh, good
we
grief!
Should just talk about something completely gross and then we go there. Jessica says, I met the actor of Miles Morales at the Fan Expo. He freaked out when I told him that he is in Fortnite. Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. Well, there is no that was our experience at Fan Expo. There will be more stuff coming later from it. Again, if you want to see our photos, check out our Instagram. And there's no social media madness this week, guys.
Crying shame.
It's like I can breathe.
But if you're watching and you want to be part of social media madness next week, here's our good friend Don to tell you more.
How's the show going? You join it? Do you want to be part of social media madness? And go ahead and head over to superheroespeak.com where you can find all the social links, episodes of the show. You can find comic reviews by Chris and other articles. We're posting stuff on there all the time. And while you're there, check out the rest of the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network. Great shows like the Pop Prison Power Podcast, Colt 45, Fans on Patrol, the Gorilla Brain podcast, So Wizard, and Superhero Speak. Hashtag GW All Stars, and you will not be disappointed. So make sure that you are engaging with the Superhero Speak Twitter post whenever they come up. Give us your best comment, and you may make JD say this.
I get so tired of these dumb motherfuckers.
All right, it's back to the show.
I do get tired of the dumb motherfuckers.
You do, very much
Same here.
So don't forget to check out the Mega Level Nerds podcast, available on YouTube and wherever podcasts are available. And you know what? If you're here right now and you're watching us and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button down below. Click that bell for notifications so you won't miss the show when we go live every Sunday here on YouTube. Classy says, Revenge of the Sith posters? Did I miss something?
Sure. Did Don have
Sounds
a
says
Revenge
we
of
should
Sith
talk about.
poster?
I don't know.
Let's talk
Sounds
about
like
something optimistic. Who's
Yeah.
watching?
No, everything's going to
Stranger-
hell.
Stranger New World.
I'm an old man.
Season
I can
2.
say that. In my day,
I have not watched Strange World.
I will watch. Actually, you know what? Here's the thing. Again, we've talked about this before. I have subscribed to so many streaming services right now that I am paying just as much as an old cable bill, and I just do not find that there's enough on Paramount for me to subscribe to yet another one, especially with the prices going up. So I will subscribe to that when they like merge with Hulu or Max or whatever, and I can get that as part of a bigger plot. But in the meantime, I did just order the Blu-rays of Strange New World Season 1. So I will watch that at home.
Oh.
It's much more economical for me to have just bought the whole season on Blu-ray than it was for me to subscribe to watch it. No. That's okay. No. That's I don't want anybody's
We just
password.
announced on YouTube that some people are not doing legal things.
I'm a hacker. You don't want to give me your password.
The Revenge of the Sith. He's talking about Don's got a Revenge of the Sith poster behind him. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, we are going to take a quick break. Something that'll cheer us up a little bit. And we'll be right back with the news.
Some podcasts are like this.
The bodies of 3 hikers were all empty, and their organs were laid out like a Sunday dinner.
And some podcasts are like this.
You know what? I'm going to tell you why having a large penis ain't always a good thing.
But only one podcast is where you can get in-depth analysis like this.
Like, nah, this is what you saw. They were drunk as shit because everybody been drinking. He told a good-ass joke that made her pussy explode. I mean, no, that made her fall into his chest.
Yeah, that's why everything was all shaking and they just laughing and
because of the vigorous laughter.
That moan you heard, that was just like an airless laugh.
When he said he was about to come, he meant like with another joke.
Yeah, he's about to come up with another joke.
So
he's about to bust his gut.
I'm about to bust a gut.
You are now listening to Call 45.
This is Beat 'em Down.
And I'm Random Randy Savage.
Find us on all your podcatching apps like Podbean or Spotify. And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Or just go to www.cult45podcast.com.
Also, check out our YouTube for that sweet video content.
Cult 45, the only podcast that puts hair on your chest.
I love that. I've never seen Eve's about you. Perhaps I should.
All right. Let's talk little news here, guys. Not much this week, of course, because we had a big movie to talk about. But I thought this was interesting to talk about. J. Michael Straczynski is going to be the new writer for Captain America.
That's
very
gonna
interesting.
Be really interesting. Yeah.
He had a very controversial run on Spider-Man. Sometimes great, sometimes awful.
Yeah.
And that was
Did he
20 years ago. So yeah. What
was the problem? What
The
was,
other, right?
He wrote the other.
Yeah.
He wrote the other. He wrote Past, where Gwen Stacy did the nasty and the pasty with Norman Osborn.
Yep.
Like he had some real bad. He had some real bad Spider-Man. He was officially the writer of record on One More Day.
Yeah, but we know that was pushed by editorial.
It was, yeah.
Straczynski has, yeah.
I mean, but he did some good stuff too, especially early on. Early in the early run, the Moreland story was great. One of my favorite Spider-Man stories ever. He did some really good stuff with Peter and Mary Jane. He is actually the one who gave us Peter as Tony Stark's guy, right? That pretty much was happening in his books years before it happened in the movies. Like this was he's done some good stuff actually. He did Peter as a teacher. I like that.
I was going to say he does good and bad, so it's just going to some
bad.
interesting takes on Captain America.
He did the Thor comeback, right? Because Thor had been off the grid for I want to say 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
After the Jurgens run ended with the Ragnarok. Excuse me. He's the one who did Thor Asgard coming up as a floating city over Bronxton, Oklahoma, and brought Thor back as the king of the gods. And it was some really, really good stories around about 2007-ish. He's good. He could be good.
Well, Straczynski is usually. I mean, he's done a lot of other stuff. He's like done a lot of the scripts for animated TV series and stuff way back all the way into the 80s for like Captain Power. Like he's written some of the most complicated, most character-driven stuff out there.
Right?
And
Didn't he do that whole?
pretty good. He still has the same problem as Gennady Tartakovsky with how to deal with relationships, and making them, like good, but
but he's never fridged he's never fridged a woman.
What?
But
fridged, the term Gail Simone came up with women in refrigerators.
Right, fridged a woman. I thought you said Frenched a woman. Like, how do you know that? What the hell?
Comes from Major Disaster stuffing Kyle Rayner's girlfriend in his refrigerator early in the Ron Mars Green Lantern run.
Yes. Yeah. That's the worst kind of relationship. With an appliance.
One has with the refrigerator. Yes. The Frigidaire is a bitch.
You think he'll do like a Spider Spirit, an American Spirit?
No. I mean, like everyone always makes these jokes when writers come on a book, so they're going to do the exact same stories as they did before. But I'm very curious to see what his run will be, because I don't think Steve Rogers has had a great run on his own. Brubaker left the book around about a decade ago, so I'm curious to see what happens here.
I mean, he's the guy that comes in and goes, all right, I'm going to do some things that are really different with this character.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes either hit or miss. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'll definitely check out. The Cap's one of my favorite characters. I'll check out his first couple books. We'll see. And then I'll decide if I want to keep reading it. But also, comics are so expensive now. It's got to be really good to keep me going.
That they are.
Yeah. All right, so we're all cautiously optimistic. All right. Speaking of cautiously optimistic, Disney to allow Marvel to create TVMA content for Disney Plus. That's not a shock to me because they allowed some stuff on there now. That's why they did the whole new parental block thing on there and defaulted it to like accounts are locked until if you create a separate account under your main account, it's locked until they give you permission or whatever. So that's it's not shocking. But I guess it bodes well for like, if they're going to do a Daredevil show on there, it's not going to be Disneyfied, right? Because that's like been one of the biggest complaints online is like, oh, well, he's going to be watered down. It's not going to be the same as the Netflix show.
And yeah, Deadpool. There's no way they can do Deadpool on Disney. They had to allow TVMA content. There's just no other way.
True, right.
Because if they didn't do Deadpool 3 in the vein of Deadpool 1 and 2, they would lose everybody from that.
We need more rated R movies and shows in Disney. Okay.
Well, it depends on what they're going to do with the DCU, right? Like the
Yeah.
DCU would, like if they go hardcore on that now, that they have somebody at the rudder who probably knows what he's doing, then Marvel will have to. Well, they already are acquiescing to that. So
They're doing what they have to do to keep the wheels running.
Yep.
Right. To a point. You're being quiet, JD. What do you think? Like,
I got like all this snot in my throat, and every time I talk, it feels like I'm gonna go. So I'm trying to clear stuff without being super obviously over the top about it. My allergies are clearly getting crazy.
Oh my god!
So thanks for bringing attention to that. What are we talking about again? I don't even remember.
TVMA material on Disney Plus for Marvel.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, if it can make stuff, if it can serve a purpose for the story, like if they get Ghost Rider and more, I'd like to see some more harder, like R level content with depending on the character. I don't need Spider-Man swinging in a scene going, "What's up, motherfucker?" You know, I don't need that. But I mean, like,
right?
If Ghost Rider can use the penance stare properly, well then we're good. You know?
Yeah. Or if they did if they redid Morbius and did it right.
They should not redo Morbius. Morbius should never have been done. Like, there was no reason for a Morbius movie. Nobody asked for it. And even when people did ask for it, it was a joke. And Fox released it again, and they were like, oh, nobody really wanted it. Or Sony released it again.
Blade.
Like, oh, nobody really wanted this. Blade's vampire story. That needs vampires. That needs blood. That needs, like, to be, you know. The thing is, Disney lost 4 million subscribers, but there's churn, and there's a lot of churn in a lot of these apps, because like John was talking about earlier, the whole point of getting these streaming services was to get away from cable, because cable was price gouging so bad. But now there's so many of these services and
their prices are so high,
that people are going, I don't need this. And so what they're doing is they're churning. And this is something that we talked about too with Max, is that David Zaslav says that HBO has tons of churn. People come in and come out based on what's currently available, whereas Max, or Discovery, I should say, doesn't have a lot of churn, because like if you like, you know, Chip and Joanna Gaines, you're gonna like one of their knockoff clone shows. You know, you're gonna like House Hunters. You're gonna be into all that stuff. So like churn, especially with the nerd stuff like we like, is a real problem.
Yeah. So there's several problems right now. The prices are getting to a point where people aren't tolerating them anymore. The services themselves have realized that they can't keep all content available all the time. There is a limit or a hit to the profit based on how much they have on there, and so they're starting to archive some of the stuff that doesn't get enough views. So we've hit a ceiling, and now they're starting to merge as well. Like. So we're gonna start seeing a lot of action over the next, I don't know, say 5 years, where we're going to maybe get a glimpse at what it's going to be from now on. Like we'll have an age of like TV had a golden age. We'll have a streaming age, but who knows which one's going to win? Okay. You know, if we're gonna have 3 or 4 networks, quote unquote, instead. You know,
been predicting it for the last couple of years that everything's gonna churn down into basically Peacock.
Classy,
Disney and Netflix.
No Classy. No.
We get more MILF Mansion.
Reality TV rots your brain, man.
I just want to live in MILF Mansion. That's all I want. I'd like to fix.
They're losing subscribers because they're turning out flat content.
I wouldn't want to live there.
They are.
Even Mandalorian ended disappointingly. Well, that's
debatable. That's like if you. That's like
That's like your opinion, man. Like no, what it is it ended. And there's like they're going, well, it's X number of months before anything else is coming on here I want to watch. I'm going to stop paying for it until the next show that I want to watch comes on. Then I'm going to pay for it, binge that show, and then I'm going to dump it again. Like that's my brother does that all the time. He's like, why pay $25 a month or whatever it currently is for 3 months? I'm not watching it.
So it could be that that season also did disappoint some people, and that's part of it too, but not all of it.
John's not going to answer that question, Ray, so I'll just move on.
I'm not wearing eyeliner.
I know.
Maybe it's the light hitting me in the wrong place.
So like about 5-6 years ago,
John.
These subscription services run off the gym membership model. Is you buy your gym membership. You don't want to cancel the gym membership because you feel bad canceling the gym membership. So consequently, you keep the gym membership. You barely use the gym membership, but you keep paying into it. So a lot of these streaming services have the same concept. As you buy this thing and you forget you have it. Right. And then you use it when you want it. The problem is they're so expensive and there's so many of them now. It's forcing the consumer to go, Pornhub does have a streaming service. It's free.
Moving on.
But yes, exactly. And like my brother started doing that a while ago, and now I mean Netflix is getting nuts with like if they detect you log into another area, they're going to just charge you, assuming you're sharing your password.
Because Netflix is the one that's hurting the most of it. Sony didn't get in on all this. Sony's a seller, right? Sony played the long game and played it pretty smart, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Ray says I pay $1 a month. I pay $1 a month for Peacock for a year, and I'll get the same deal next year. That's pretty good. I pay $5 a month for Peacock, but I barely watch it. So I'm like, why? I've tried to cancel Peacock like 10 times on my Roku, but they make it so difficult that I eventually just surrender. Yes, because on great content, no streaming. They license their stuff. Yeah, man, they didn't go. Sony, we talked about them for the last couple of years. What's Sony gonna do? Sony played it right.
Yeah.
They saw this coming, and they just said, "We'll just license you guys our talent." Because I'm sure they made money. I'm sure they're making money with with Disney right now. Having Spider-Man on there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I kind of think that's the other thing, right? It's like, again, it's too much money. I think eventually there's going to be some platform idea where we've talked about this before. They're going to go to like 3 or 4 streaming services or 5 streaming services and say, hey, why don't we group you together as a bundle and charge X per month and make people sign a contract where they have to keep it for at least 6 months? The services that are losing big subscribers are probably like, yeah, that's a good idea. It's going to be called Cable 2.0. It's just
we're going to go back to cable. It's going to move back to cable. It's already there. Class, I only have 3 or 4 Me too. I've got Peacock. I've got what do I also have? I have Peacock and I have HBO. I have Max. And Disney.
I have Disney. Yeah, I've got like 10, but
you're a maniac.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not Paramount.
Right. Well, I've got Amazon, Netflix, and I have Amazon for Prime. It's like why
we have Prime. We have Prime too, but we barely use it. We use it more for like shipping. My wife has a problem. She is an Amazon addict, and Prime with the free delivery.
Yeah, and yes. Disney, and then all the other ones I use are the free services. Like,
do you use the free service like Tubi and like Pluto? Do you use those things ever?
I use the Roku channel.
Oh, okay.
I watch stuff on the Roku channel, and I've watched stuff on Tubi. Yeah. So
you know what channel I watch more than any other channel? YouTube.
What?
I found that I watch more stuff on YouTube than anywhere else.
Yeah.
I do kind of too. And I got YouTube Red or whatever they call it now.
Premium is it? Or is it still Red?
They call it, maybe they call it premium. They used to call it Red, I think. But like
I think it's premium,
like
though.
I watch more YouTube than almost anything else.
Mm-hmm, me too.
Yeah, except for maybe Crunchyroll and High Dive for the anime.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything bad about YouTube because, we're currently on there.
YouTube rules. Kazan says, do you see the whole MGM Plus service Amazon is trying to sell? I was watching from on Prime and season 2 moved to MGM Plus. I heard about that. I'm not interested. I'm not buying. No buys here.
Mm-hmm.
I watch fight scenes on YouTube, even though I have the movie on Blu-ray. Dude, I tend to do the same thing too. I tend to find stuff on YouTube that I own, or like same with streaming. I always stream movies that I own. My kid doesn't understand the concept of owning media. Like he looks at CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays like the monkeys at the beginning of 2001. He's like, oh, what is this? To be fair, he's 7, but yeah.
Yeah, no, the idea of owning media is foreign to a lot of young people.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on. The last story is related to our main topic. The producer of the Spider-Verse movies has now said that they are Sony, speaking of Sony as well, are currently working on live-action Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen movies.
Of course they are.
Here's my question. Of
question.
course they are, but go ahead.
What took them so long? Why did this long to try this? Like the first Miles, The Spider-Verse, the first one came out 5 years ago. In that time, we have suffered through 2 Venoms, a Morbius, and now we have a Craven coming. When they could have had a Miles Morales movie.
And that's the question I've been wondering too. And we talked about this a while ago. Why didn't they make Miles the Sony Spider-Man and let Peter be the MCU
Marvel
Spider-Man?
It would, yeah, it's right there. I don't know. I don't know.
But who knows how well it's going to do? Like, I don't.
Fine, it will do fine. Miles Morales is now a cultural touchstone because of these movies.
Well, yeah, but it's still Sony.
So,
you know.
So was the movie we're going to talk about in about 5 minutes.
I know, but I feel like this movie, like these 2 Spider-Man movies are a fluke. Like, there's just somebody.
They've been doing this for like 10 years now, man.
What?
It takes a while to make these movies. It took 5 years to get from into to across.
I know, but the live action stuff, Sony has a very, weak.
Yeah. Okay. To be fair, they're also responsible. You have to give them half credit for the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. Those are all great.
True, but that was because they worked with Marvel on that.
They still get credit because it's they released as a Sony movie, did not release as a Disney movie.
Yeah,
both three of them. So yeah, they're doing bad on why they're trying to mine. They're trying to create these remember the Dark Universe when they tried to make that a thing with Dracula and Frankenstein, and they kept trying and it kept failing, and they eventually just left it alone. Sony does the same thing. They're trying to make this Spider Universe that doesn't involve Peter Parker, and it keeps failing. But I'm of the mind that if these movies were actual Spider-Man movies, they might work.
They could have just lent a Spider-Man from the Spider-Verse. I mean, they got plenty of them. So.
They got tons of them, apparently. Millions of spiders.
Spider-Verse didn't do well in the theaters. It did better in the secondary markets, which boosted the success of Spider-Verse 2. When did the first one come out?
I don't know if I buy that. It came out 2018.
Yeah, and I thought it did really well. I mean, I remember going to see it twice.
I saw it 3 times.
Once for myself, and once with my nephews who were all gung ho to see it.
It had a budget of $90 million. It made $384 million at the box office.
Yeah,
that's a success. Yeah, I don't think they're making Miles Morales live action movie and Gwen's Spider-Man movie possibly 2028. You don't think they're making it, but possibly they're coming out in 2028, Classy. I'm not sure I understand your comment.
Well, Variety is reporting it. They're not usually.
That's from the producers.
They're in development. Yeah. They're in development. It doesn't matter. So many things are in development right now. Nothing's been greenlit.
Remember, there was supposed to be a female Spider-Verse movie out before this one, and it never came out. So
it did not happen.
Yeah.
Things in Hollywood change like fast. Ideas get thrown around. Like we'll see. But that being said, I would expect a Miles Morales movie within the next 5 years, live action, and it should happen.
Yeah, and just to go right now they say they're in development, but they're not because of the writer's strike, and
the producers can be in development. The producers can be in development.
Oh, true. Well,
they're just not writing a script.
Right. How much can they do without that, though? But they also say
quite a bit.
Amy Pascal from Sony says 4th Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland and Zendaya is still in the works, but the writer's strike has paused development.
Yeah. That's different. That's probably further along the way. Because right now they're like, these producers get together and they figure out what they want to do before they hire a writer. Because remember, none of these writers they never go to a writer for these things and say, hey man, give us your idea. Like they'll hire someone and go, this is what we want, make this.
Right.
Which is why you have 10 different writers on a movie. Right? It's different. And it's Lord and Miller are the guys behind Spider-Verse. So these are guys with like a super track record. That's the difference too between the greater Spider-Verse movies and the actual Spider-Verse movie. You know what I'm saying? Is they actually hired people who knew what they were doing, who apparently had a terrible solo movie. At some point, we should get the Lord and Miller solo film because I'm really curious to see how bad it was. Release the Lord and Miller cut.
The rest of the Lord and Miller cut. Let's get that. All right. Let's get that trending on the Twitters there. Yeah, release the Lord and Miller cut. We want to see it.
No.
Get it on Blue Sky.
So, Shall we hit the main topic then?
Let's just do it. Let's get into
Yeah,
it.
no worries, Classy. I'm multitasking too, but it's mostly so I can really talk about this.
All
movie.
right. Well, okay,
Oh,
that's the
boy.
news. We will take a quick break and be right back with our main topic.
Huh? Miles?
Hey, who's the new guy?
I'm sorry. Who are you?
I'm glad you asked, new guy. My name is Pravitra Prabhakar. I live in Mumbai. This is where the traffic is. This is also where the traffic is. There's traffic here too. Being Spider-Man is so easy. I fight a few bad guys. Quick break for chai with my auntie.
I love chai tea.
What did you just say? Chai tea? Chai means tea. You're saying tea.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, exclusively in movie theaters, June 2nd.
God, I love that scene.
You're muted, John. John, your mic is off.
I have made that mistake at work. I work with a lot of people from India, and I've made the mistake of saying, "Oh yeah, I got to get myself some chai tea," and the looks they give you are like, American.
Yeah, well, why do we say? But they make that joke early in the movie too, because they're like, "Why is they call it an ATM machine?" Because
Oh, that's true. They do make that joke twice.
So I feel like Lord and Miller find that to be a good source of humor. All right, real quick, let's before we get into it, of course we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Before we get into it, let's talk
spoiler warnings for those people who haven't seen it yet.
Let's talk some numbers real quick. Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter is 95%. The audience score is 96%. Box office, domestic, 120 million up to this point. 88 million worldwide, so 208 million so far for Across the Spider-Verse.
That's pretty good.
And that doesn't include today, right?
Right, exactly. They were the numbers as this morning when I put the show notes together. And I think it's projected Sunday, but that always gets adjusted. We did a little poll over on our Twitter feed. We said, what did you think of Across the Spider-Verse? Gave 4 options like I have been. Best Spider-Man ever. It was good, not the best. It was meh, or I didn't like it at all. And the clear-cut winner at 56.3% was it was the best Spider-Man ever. Followed closely by it was good, but not the best at 21%. It was meh, got 12%, and I didn't like it at all. Got a shocking 9.4%.
These are people that have no joy in their lives and walk around with empty.
Well, it's so funny because Random Randy Savage from the Cold 45 podcast said the very small percentage that said I didn't like it at all need to get their hearts checked.
Mm-hmm. These are rotten people who just are miserable and want to make other people miserable.
So, all right, that is it by the numbers. So let us real quick go around the room and tell you what our initial reactions of Across the Spider-Verse were. No spoilers yet, and we'll start with John, since you've seen it the most recent.
This is the best damn movie I have seen in a very, very freaking long time. It is my top Marvel-based movie. Period. There is two hours 20 minutes, and I felt like it was too short. And I just cannot wait to see the next one. This movie just hit every good spot. And there's normally I find something like, oh, that's a little annoying, but I love everything else about it. No, I can't point it at anything that even mildly annoyed me about this. Everything was, I am gobsmacked by this movie.
Okay, JD.
Everything John said is correct. I absolutely loved this movie with all my heart and soul. I took Andy to it. He was just on cloud 9 watching this because he loves Miles Morales, and we both just loved it for different reasons. I just thought it was great. And when the movie first started and the first scene comes on, I said to myself, "Oh, Dave's gonna hate this." This is the very first thought
no.
that went
You're
through
right.
my head.
You're right. Yeah.
When
that
I
hit me too.
when I saw who the opening character was, I said, "Oh man, Dave is gonna hate this movie, and we're gonna have to argue on the show." Am I right? Am I right?
Dave?
Am I right?
It was okay.
I knew it.
Oh my god!
And you know, I knew it. I knew it.
We were just talking about people with no joy in their soul.
When Stacy was in it, so Dave was out from Jump Street.
How?
So
How? No matter what version of Gwen Stacy
Bro,
you
he
have
is
hated
consistent.
in the past, how could you hate this one?
So consistent. He hates Spider-Gwen. He will hate it forever, and nothing can stop it. It's like pineapples and coleslaw. You either think it's brilliant or the sin against nature. And Dave is very clearly on the sin against nature pose here. Yeah, I knew this was going to happen.
Together does sound like
it's awful, by the way. It is. Yeah. I agree with that. It is awful. But there are people. They're antichrists. But there are people that like it. So I knew this was going to happen. I knew it.
I will say this: there are things in this movie I thought were strokes of genius, how they did it, and I thought there were things in this movie were like, "Ow, it hurt just to watching it," and we'll get into that. But yeah,
how do you function?
Like normal human beings.
Lack of joy.
I have joy. I have lots of joy. I have like lots of things.
Do you run on the tears of children? Like, I don't understand how you could.
Dave is a fundamentalist, a comics fundamentalist. Gwen Stacy died in 1973, and she should stay dead. Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
I know, Dave. Classy says he's not a fan of the animation, and I get that, and that's kind of what I really dig about this movie is that there's so many different styles of animation, but a lot of them veer into the abstract. So if you're not into that sort of a thing, I could see that being a turn off. I really liked it. I thought it was cool, but it is definitely different.
Yeah.
This is the movie that has gotten the closest in my lifetime to using the palette to convey emotion.
Yeah.
Instead of conveying placement, conveying emotion. And yes, that takes probably like a more right side brained person, I think it is, than or it just it's like not everybody's gonna get it. Maybe you have to watch it a couple of times.
I don't know. We're generalizing here, man. I don't know about that.
I don't know. Like I get why some people won't get it, right? I'm a very emotional person. Like I'll pick up on that stuff really quick. And this, like the backgrounds and the shading and how the color changed based on what the dialogue was and everything. I mean, that hit me. That is part of what I absolutely love about this. But I know that not everybody's brain works the same way.
But most movies do that. Most movies use the light, the way light is shaped to tell a story. The difference with this is it's very pronounced. It's well, not good. Like any for worth his weight with lighting. The difference with something like this is it's so pronounced, right? Is they don't, a lot of times when in actual film they try to make it subtle, but in something like this you really put your foot forward and you want people to see it. You want to make it obvious. You want to make it like this is what we're doing, and they do that a lot because they've done such a good job establishing all these universes as being different as far as like a look goes. You can really steer into that, and you can really make that over pronounced.
See, just one more thing, Dave. I'm sorry. I don't feel like they were just making obvious. I think they weren't. For me, it felt like they made it part of the dialogue itself. Like you were listening to the movie in colors.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, for sure. They're definitely doing that. And the conceit of the film of it being, different universes makes that doable and effective.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're starting to delve into spoiler territory here. So I'm going to say, if you're watching this and you have not seen the movie yet, this is where you want to jump out. Come back after you see the movie. I'm sure if you're watching this, you're planning to see the movie at some point. But if you've already seen it or you don't care about spoilers, here we go. All right. So my initial I'm so like, how do I say this? I've been torn thinking about this movie a lot, going back and forth. And I do have like my overall complaint, and I know some people are going to disagree with this. It was too long. I'm sorry, 2.5 hours for an animated movie is too long in my book. Like I there was stuff in there that could have been cut. Easily could have been cut. We didn't need as much backstory stuff as we got in this movie. That just wasn't necessary for the plot. And the fact that it's 2.5 hours and it's part 1 of 2, like you feel like the whole time is you feel like they're building up to the big final boss, and then that's where they cut the movie.
Brilliant.
Right before they're going to go fight the final boss. So it's like,
brilliant.
Well, how are you going to get a whole 2-hour movie out of the next part of the story then?
Well, it's Infinity Endgame.
That's not your issue, Dave. That's their issue. And that's like, you can't say like, well, they can't. Would have been better three movies. Like they had the story. It's not like, I don't feel that it treads water at any point in the story. Like there's constant character development. There's constant like relationship. There's constant plot advancement. It's a lot going on. I'm not going to say there's not a lot going on in this movie, but there's a lot going on in this movie. Like there's some really big grandiose. No, there really wasn't. There was a lot of big grandiose ideas.
No, there was a lot of fat. They retold stuff that was in the first movie. They retold the backstories of both your main characters multiple times in this movie that they already told you in the first movie. Like I don't need books. Yeah, but I don't need that. I don't.
But it wasn't told in just here's a recap way like they do in a lot of anime or whatever.
But it felt like they did that. But they do that. That's something they do in the movie. They did in the first movie too. Here's the story, like, and that's the storytelling device.
And they did it from different points of view this time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like every time they talk about it, they're doing it from a different point of view, which adds more nuance to the story.
And the whole idea of this movie is that all of these characters are interlinked for specific reasons. So you have to hammer that home. You have to hammer home the idea that all of these characters must suffer the same fates, or else they're not really Spider-Man. And this movie, the entire foundation of this movie challenges that. And some of you who wants to see superhero movies and superhero stories not be wallowed in tragedy all the time, this is a movie that's challenging that idea that Spider-Man doesn't have to be a tragic character. That's this whole movie is he's working to save his father from befalling the same fate that all the cliched superhero parent trope. Like I thought, like that's something that I think should appeal to you more than anybody, as someone who gets so tired of that stuff.
Well, that appeals to me. But
I know it feels to all of us, but that's Dave always says like he wants the hope of superheroes.
Oh,
right? This movie like embraces it more than anything I think we've seen in a long time.
That was one of the things that was like brilliantly done. The idea of tying all of these spider characters across these universes together with what they were calling canon events.
Mm-hmm.
Like okay, that makes sense. That works, right? Like that was really well done. I like that aspect of it, but I don't feel like they needed to. They already told us these things in the first one, and then as soon as they explain it to you and he's standing there and he goes, my father just got promoted to captain, it was like, yeah, I knew that before you said it. Like I knew where you were going with it. You didn't need to hold my hand and
disagree with that. Through. I just sometimes, because it's not all for you. Like there are kids in this movie there are kids watching this movie too who might need that, right? You got a kid who's 12 who might need to. I mean, this movie's supposed to appeal to people, and it's like one line. I mean, like my dad's gonna be a captain too. That's 6 words.
But you're also watching the character realize, oh my God, my father's going to be a captain.
Right.
And realize, like you're watching him. Like it's more emotionally impactful if you see him realize what's going to happen.
Correct.
So because what if he didn't have reaction and he didn't say that, then what's the point of the whole dialogue?
Correct. So then too, like with Gwen, like we see her origin again, but this time we see it from a different perspective, as we see how it affected her family life and how that affected her father, because we don't touch
And
that
her.
in the first one. And her specifically, now she's become kind of an outcast from the family because her father thinks that she's a murderer, which is different. That we saw the same origin, but we got it painted to us in a different way, which provides different connotations, right? And it changes the dynamic of Gwen's character. So yeah, we got that, but at the same time, now we're seeing something else with it.
It also set her character up for the rest of the movie.
Same with Miles. I mean, clearly the spider that bit Miles didn't belong in this universe because he's glitching. We saw that in the first movie. But refreshing our memory of that is a good thing, because I would have forgotten that unless it was pointed out to me. Because I haven't seen a movie in a couple of years. Yeah, so I don't think it's a bad thing to refresh people here and there.
True, but again, I mean, that first 20 minutes of the movie reminded me of why I hate Spider-Gwen so much.
Because you don't like Gwen Stacy. Yeah, because so Dave is mad. The first thing I saw when it opened on Gwen, I went, Dave's gonna hate this.
Well, because that whole story makes Peter out
minutes.
makes Peter out to be the villain, and it's just
in that movie, Peter, in that universe, Peter is the villain.
He was the villain, yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I don't like it.
But that's what makes it a different universe, though, is you can challenge. It's like, this is what's cool about alternate dimensions, is you can challenge the status quo. I mean, there's 8 billion Peters, right? And in this universe, he's not what he should be. And that's interesting, right? If they were all the same, if this Across the Spider-Verse was like 25 of the same dude, it's not that interesting. Like, I can't pronounce the Indian Spider-Man's name. I can't if I try, but he's very clearly Peter, but he's not Peter, right? That's cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And he was cool.
Oh,
too.
was,
I love it.
Paviter Prabhakar.
I can never say that. Paviter. Like, that's cool because he had the Parker luck trope was inverted in his universe. He's like, Spider-Man is so easy. Everything always works out. But his world's about to come crashing down on him. Right. And then Miles changes that, but now he owes him, right? So when Paviter shows up at the end, I'm like, yes, of course he would be here. He wouldn't be aligned with this spider army. He would be with the guy that saved his family, right? That makes total sense. So I mean, like, I love those little notes, man. They're so good.
Speaking of little notes, like, so the whole conflict is based on this idea that you can't be a Spider-Man unless you endure some huge tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, and if that tragedy doesn't happen, that those are canon events and it could wipe out that entire universe. And, you know, if that was it, if we had just been told that, it would have been, oh, this guy, you know, had something happen to him and he's just putting his pain on everybody now and spouting crap. But then we see in Earth 5101, Moonbatten, right? Paviter's universe, that when the father of his girlfriend was
Captain
saved,
Singh, yes.
Right, then we see the degradation of that reality starting to happen. So now you're like, well, is O'Hara correct, or is it just that it only happened in that universe, but it won't happen in every single?
We don't know yet, and that's why. And that's what makes me.
They're using an algorithm, an AI per se,
right? And they are totally. Lila's an AI, and that's what makes it interesting. Is that, and that's what makes Miguel interesting. I don't know if he's the villain, but he's the antagonist. Is that he could be right. His motives are justified, but does the end justify the means?
Now, here's something that I think I remember you two telling me, because you guys are the Marvel guys. Like, Miles is Miguel calls him an anomaly, but Miles is sort of an anomaly in Spider-Man, in the Spider-Verse, in that he's one of the few or the only one that can avoid tragedy or doesn't have.
No, Miles' characters,
real tragedy,
the comic character, I believe the mother dies in the comic, but it's later on. And his Uncle Aaron, the same thing, dies too. So I mean, like, there is that. But are we gonna have that here? I don't know. Right? That's the thing, is we're racing.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because it's like that was the canon events. Everyone loses an uncle and then loses a captain. That was like in all the canons, right? They're the canon events. They were the three main events.
The Captain Stacy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and that's because Peter loved, and I loved him using the original comic the panels too. That's so cool. And making those universes of their own, right? And the 616 not being the MCU. The 616 is its own thing. Right. And seeing Tom Holland and seeing Donald Glover, which great little tip of the cap, by the way. Like, and then seeing Ben Reilly, like the Ben Reilly from the comics. Literally that Ben Reilly showing up. It's just so cool.
By the way, this is what Multiverse of Madness should have been.
I agree.
They only showed like 3 universes, and here we've been to Earth 65, Earth 1610,
so
Earth 688,
that
Venom's
was
universe, the Lego universe at 13122, Mumbattan 5101, and what else? Oh, the Spider Society's HQ universe, which was Earth 928, Earth 616.
You don't got to read them all.
Peter B. Parker's.
Yeah.
So Earth 42. Miles Morales.
Don't make me hit your mute button. So that was one of the things too. Like, again, I liked, and they did the same thing again, where different animation style depending on the universe they're from and whatnot. But I kind of felt like there was the live action stuff. They only did a couple times, and it felt jarring every time.
It does, because seeing humans with seeing real people with animated characters is weird.
It was done well, though.
Weird. It was done well, but it is jarring. So I can't. I can't argue that.
I mean, but they've been trying to do that
Supposed to
sort of stare dance with Tom and Jerry. I mean, like
it was,
that was in the
But
60s,
what I'm saying
50s?
is, like, if one of the main characters was
was not was it Fred Astaire?
Yeah.
Might have been.
Oh, was it Gene? Okay.
No, it wasn't Gene. I can't remember. I got to look it up. Anyway, yeah, it's a bit jarring, and it's not the story. Like Roger Rabbit, that is the conceit of the story. This is not the conceit of the story. It's just an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Right. And again, and then, but that's also what makes it feel jarring, because it's just like we throw it in 3 times, and it's like, oh, okay, so maybe they'll do more in the next one. I don't know, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, but we saw scenes from literally almost every universe. Well, not literally every universe. We've seen there were scenes in there, or little video clips of literally basically every single Peter Parker that we've seen on screen. Period. End of story. Like every single one of them was mentioned at one point or another, or shown.
I'm also going to say one of the other issues I had with the movie, which I'm sure people are going to disagree with, but so we talked about there's different versions of Spider-Man throughout the universe, or Spider-Woman, right? But Miles is unique. Like, that's what they're saying in this. Like, he's anomaly. He's not supposed to be Spider-Man. So he only exists in his universe as Spider-Man. There's no others. And it's like, I get that, but then you're taking away from Peter Parker. And it's just like, that's my Spider-Man. And I'm like, don't do that to me.
But he would have, if that spider hadn't jumped from, what was it, Earth 42, then Miles Morales there would have been Spider-Man.
No, Peter Parker would have been. There was never a Spider-Man in that universe.
There was never a Spider-Man.
It was supposed to be Peter in that one.
No,
as well.
they showed a clip.
There was never a Spider-Man. That's the whole thing. Remember, he comes out to his mom.
Right, there never was.
What?
No, but they showed a clip of this the Spider 40.
Yeah, Spider 42.
That was going to bite Miles Morales there.
No, it's supposed to be
jumped to this.
No, it's supposed to be by Peter Parker there.
And it jumped.
But there was no Peter Parker there.
There is a Peter Parker. There is no Spider-Man. Stay tuned to the next movie.
I swear I saw in one of the breakdowns that they showed it was going to.
YouTube breakdowns. Those aren't real. Those are just nerds that are just pulling stuff out of their butt. They don't know what they're talking about. Like the
Well,
people know these things are the people who make the movie.
There was actually a freeze
No,
frame.
no,
of the
because they're
movie
actually
showing-
saying the reason Peter died in Miles's universe is because that
He
spider
didn't get bit by the spider.
He changed canon.
Yeah,
So-
but okay, so he changed canon there, and that universe is still around. If
Well,
that
that-
universe missed its canon event,
Yeah, I agree. The canon event now becomes the death of his of Miles of Jeff Morales. So now we got to see what happens. Peter's still around in that. You wouldn't be surprised if we saw him. And Classy saying again, I've heard too many to diminish the legacy main character to prop up the new main character. Critics have not appreciated this with Peter Parker. Let's be honest, there is not a more overexposed character in fiction than Peter Parker. And it's just because of the nature of Spider-Man's publishing. Again, my favorite character, but there's been more issues. There have been more Peter Parker books published than any other character in mainstream comics, just by the fact there's constantly been 5 Spider-Man books in print for over 30 years. Right.
which is why they were able, for this movie, the animators made over 280 spider variants.
But that's the whole thing, is there are so many versions of Peter. That's the truth. Here's the thing. There are so many versions of Peter Parker. There will always be versions of he is a cultural touchstone. Miles Morales exists to be something different than Peter Parker. That is the character. Can we have, as always, Spider-Man could be anybody. The appeal of Spider-Man is it could be anybody behind the mask, but what makes Spider-Man man behind the mask? Miles Morales asked the question is, could it work with someone else behind the mask? And the answer is yes, if the character is intriguing out of its own, because the character has lasted for over a decade in comics and has, traversed into the next world now. Right. But I mean, at the same time, he's not replacing Peter Parker, because you watch Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Disney Junior show. Miles is on the show, but they call him Spin. Because Miles is friends with Peter in that universe. You are not going to replace Peter Parker, nor is anybody asking for that. But Miles has done a good job. He's one of the few, if not only, legacy characters to hold his own. Most legacy characters fall back into the original timeline. It's him and Hal Jordan and Barry Allen. He's reached those levels of
Hal Jordan
those
keeps
guys
coming back after.
But I mean, Hal Jordan surpassed Alan Scott. Barry Allen surpassed Jay Garrick. I don't think Miles is going to surpass Peter Parker, but he gets to stand on the shoulders with him, right? He gets to exist. I mean, he's had his own stuff, and this movie is about you can be Spider-Man. It's anybody could be Spider-Man. It's how you play the role of Spider-Man. And it's that's the whole thing about Miles is he has to live up to the ghost of Peter Parker, right? Because Peter Parker casts such an indelible shadow. And this whole movie is about the grand shadow of Peter Parker, because Miguel O'Hara is the same thing. Miguel O'Hara is not Peter Parker. So the struggle, and neither is Gwen. The struggle between these 3 characters who are not Peter.
Which is why I do think that's why they made Miguel the head of this task force, because he's also
he made himself
an anomaly.
They didn't make him the head.
He
started
you're right.
The whole thing.
He was also he was created differently. Miguel has a different background than Peter. Miguel's always had more of a dark edge than Peter has, so it works. And this is why I find this super interesting, because again, we have a fantastic live action Spider-Man whose story isn't done yet. By using the new Spider-Man in this different medium, we get to have 2 Spider-Men that exists on their own, and that both get to have this, main event status, if you will.
Hassan's saying what
Hassan says it's not an issue of replacement, it's an issue of diminished agency and reduce the prestige of Peter in this film, not to overshadow Miles. You don't have to do that to make Miles great. I disagree, because Miles is the Spider-Man. Miles, as always, the character of Miles is meant to exist in the shadow of Peter Parker. That is a big part of what he is. Much like Superman is a man of 2 worlds, much like Batman is a child of orphanacy, but raised in a world of privilege. Right. This is the DNA of the character, is you can't have Miles without having Peter Parker. It does not work.
No, right. But again, the idea of, but he's unique. He's the only one.
He is unique. He is the only. That's the story here. But because Peter Parker is,
I feel like it diminishes Peter Parker
by having 8
how
million.
does it if he's why does this? I see this.
I mean, because there's a million.
You being great doesn't mean that you make other people around you less.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying you're diminishing him by saying, "Oh, there's millions of Peters, but there's only one Miles. He's the best."
Okay. I'm gonna.
But there literally is only one Miles. That's the whole point. Like
But it's saying Peter Parker's a dime a dozen, but Miles is special in you.
But he's not. You saw how many different Peter Parkers there were, and how many different types of him.
That's the thing, is that who has made Peter Parker? Who has created? Why is Peter Parker able to transverse all these different mediums and stories? Because Peter Parker is part of the fabric of pop culture. The idea of Miles Morales is to do something different than Peter Parker. We have a Peter Parker that works.
But that doesn't mean he has to be the only one.
And we had Jessica Drews. We had Ben Reilly.
That's the story.
All these. We had. Was it the Future Park?
I don't like the story.
Mayday. Well, no.
I know
Mayday,
you don't.
And then there's
because you feel like you feel like you are being replaced as a fan. That your fandom doesn't matter. You feel like they're telling me that I don't matter as a fan. You're being remarkably selfish in this.
No,
and not seeing the chance. No, you really are. You're saying this is because you're talking about I want. This is what I want. This is what I want. Right? It's not about what the story is trying to give to you. It's about what you want.
Okay, well, I don't like this story.
You are free to not like the story. I'm just telling you why you don't like the story. You're not liking it on your own merits. You're not at its own merits. You're not liking it because of the way it makes you feel about your own mortality and your place in the world. It's this I feel like I'm being replaced thing, and it's kind of silly.
Yeah, one of the coolest Peter Parkers in here wasn't a Peter Parker. It was Hobart Brown, Spider-Punk.
Yeah, that's all of the characters, with the exception of Peter B. All the Spider-Men that we focus on are not Peter Parker, right? Yeah. We talk about that.
I'm kind of like, so they created this Jess Drew Spider-Woman for this movie because she doesn't exist in any of the books. And I don't have an issue with them creating a new version, a new variant. My issue is, why is she perpetually pregnant? She's pregnant in the beginning, and then they say it's months later that Gwen has been going around with them after they pick her up, and she still looks the same level as pregnant by the time we get there. Like, what? Like, there's got to be something behind that, and I hope they explain that in the next one. I thought that was an odd choice, you know.
Well, she's pregnant in the comics right now, isn't she?
She's been pregnant. That's a big part of it. I don't know about right now, but that's a big
part.
Well,
she doesn't exist in the comics.
The Jessica Drew character, though.
Jessica Drew does, but not Jess Drew. She's a character that was created for
that version.
That's one of the few in here that isn't based on something that.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They could have portrayed Peter Parker as strong, confident, capable. He's portrayed as aged, tired, and worn out.
Not in this one. He's had a resurgence.
No, he's wearing. But they like the idea of having him in slippers and a robe the whole time, like
because he's got a kid.
There's no
his dad.
Yeah.
But Dave, that's one of your favorite stories. That's Spider-Girl, right? It is Mayday Parker.
Mayday, yeah.
Like they literally call her Mayday. That's Spider-Girl.
Yeah.
Like again, it's okay. Here's the thing: is you're hyper focusing on Miles being the only one. He's the only one in his. And again, we don't know that Miguel is right because who's telling him it? A Spider-Man not named Peter Parker, who helped all of these characters that we're focusing on. Are Spider-Man that aren't Peter Parker. Every single one of them. Hobie Brown is Spider-Punk. Jess Drew, Spider-Woman. Gwen Stacy. Ben Reilly.
Ben Reilly leaning against the...
being all dramatic and dark. I love that. Like, they're every single one of them. And the only Spider-Man we saw, but we did see that Spider-Man. We saw the most confident, most valiant Spider-Man possibly in all of fiction, and he died. Right? Like the Spider-Man in Miles' universe was closer to Superman than the Peter Parker than we had seen. So we did get that. And this is a world without that Spider-Man, a world that's what Into the Spider-Verse is about, is how does this world survive without Spider-Man? Right? So I mean, like you're hyper-focusing on that this Miles is the only one. Miles is the one who got turned into Spider-Man. And again, this is just what Miguel is saying as, quite frankly, the villain of the story. Like he's not exactly a reliable narrator.
True.
Because the entire
he's more of the focused with a mission type
He's obsessed. He's driven.
He's obsessed. He's driven.
Yeah, he's driven to the point of obsession, and we don't know what necessarily is behind all this driving him. Right?
We do. He lost his.
But there's something behind something, right? Like there's always something behind something, right? We're not.
Yeah, something they haven't revealed yet. You mean?
Right, and then Miles also and this is straight from the comics too. This is a Brian Bendis creation. We get to see what Miles of the 616 is. Right, the Miles that doesn't get to, and this is what's kind of cool, is that being Spider-Man saved Miles. Because now we see this in this universe, he is the Prowler. He is a bad dude. Right? So that's what's cool. And this is what I love, is the legacy of Peter Parker, and what Peter Parker is saved Miles Morales. So rather than looking at as Peter as being replaced, I like to look at this in this one particular universe. What Peter Parker was inspired and meant something to create something from it, right? Is it became the foundation of somebody else's rising up. And that's really cool. And that's why I really this is why I think is a flaw in the current Marvel comic universe, is I don't think Peter and Miles work well in the same universe. I don't, and this isn't just Marvel. This is DC has this problem too, of having multiple characters with the same name existing in the same universe. I don't like the franchising of superheroes. I think Miles works better in an alternate universe setting, an ultimate universe, if you will. This is the best use of Miles. Current Miles in the comics is not the best use of him.
True.
So we're really harping on this.
But I think it's important. It's the conceit. It's the major conceit of the story, though.
Oh, I know, but we should go over other stuff. Like, what were your favorite moments in the movie? Like Dave, there were movies there were parts of this that you liked, right?
I said I liked the Canon event idea. It was brilliant, and it does hit you like a ton of bricks when they say it out loud, where it's like they all lost an uncle and a captain, and it was like, oh, yeah, that kind of that's interesting, I thought that was brilliant. Making the Spot the villain being created from it's obvious, but I thought that was well done as well,
the Spot was a perfect foil,
what a great, because Spot is always kind of a dumb villain, right? He's a villain with a ton of potential who's never really lived up to the potential of what the Spot could be. And this is scary, right? It's a scary villain.
Yeah, when I heard it was the Spot, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Interdimensional travel, the holes, all of that. And
did you like the retconning? Making him, making the Spot having been the reason why Spider 42 came in, making him be the someone who was always there, but we didn't see it. We went into the Spider-Verse, and he hit pause at the scene where Miles throws the bagel and it hits him in the head and it says bagel. He hit pause. There he is. There's the Spot. That's where he is. And I'm like,
that makes sense though, because it was never
it was
never shown where that.
But it's a retcon. It is a retcon.
It is a retcon, and it works. No, it definitely works in this. Yeah. It's weird to retcon your own movie as a second movie in, but
is it a retcon? I kind of wonder. Planned it? I don't know.
Was it planned? That's the question. They probably weren't 100% sure if they were going to get a second movie.
Oh, I guarantee they weren't 100% sure. And the fact that the spider glitches tells me they had an idea of where to go with it. Because again, Miguel's at the end of Spider-Verse.
Yep.
Right. That is true.
The first Spider-Verse, and he's gathering spiders, if you will.
I thought he was animated a little weird too. Not the Spot, Miguel. The fins were really long on his costume.
Well, from a different universe, so
I took that as being very 90s. Like that was the idea.
Yeah.
Was to overdo the 90s element of him
when he was created. Maybe, in the 90s.
Yeah. He's in the book. He's a great design. Rick Leonardi designed the 90s. So it's image revolution, and it definitely has that early 90s KEWL look to him.
Yeah, I guess. I just thought it was a little it felt very impractical.
Yeah, but the 90s were impractical.
Batman, yeah, it's true. Everything about it. Batman's gauntlets are kind of impractical too. I can't argue that.
But was it how first off, the Lego universe made a quick show here, and that was cool. And what I keep forgetting the name of the guy who does J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, right? He we have all these different Spider-Men or Spider people, but J.K.
One
Simmons
J. Jonah Jameson.
he's like a nexus being in the multiverse. And then when they were explaining to Miles how it worked, what's the first graphic that came up from the floor? The timeline, the sacred timeline, the actual multiverse. Like it's like they are actually definitely time. Well, they showed people from Earth 19999.
Yeah, they definitely.
But they showed the whole the sacred timeline and branching off and everything, and then they overlaid that with the Spider-Verse web.
Well, if they're gonna sneak in live action people from the other movies, they've got to like tie it all together. Like, it would have been dumb if they did their own total thing,
But that was one of my favorite. But like there was a lot of things in here, little things that I really popping out in Earth 688 with Mrs. Chen.
I will also point out.
I mean, Colin, that was good. He's like, isn't this weird to you? And she's like, she's thinking, this isn't the weirdest thing I've seen today. It's like, wait until Venom comes in for his ho-hos or whatever.
Oh God. I will point out one thing.
It's the best use of the Venom movie. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
You can argue that the MCU Spider-Man does not follow the canon because he didn't lose a captain.
He lost his mom. Aunt. Yeah. We assume he lost his uncle. We never really get that confirmed, but it's all but hinted. And he lost Tony though too.
Yeah. And he lost Aunt May. So
he suffered a
that's
lot.
what I meant. Yeah.
So that's the question: is like, do we see Tom Holland in Beyond the Spider-Verse? It would be weird because you're right; it's jarring the way they do this with how the animated and the live action works. But I kind of think you have to. I could be wrong.
I thought it worked though. I didn't think it was that jarring.
It does work. No, I think it's jarring. I think it works, but I still think it's jarring. It's intentionally jarring.
Yeah.
But we know that they know about what happened with Doctor Strange because he mentioned that.
Mentioned it. Don't get me started on Doctor Strange.
Don't get me started on that Doctor Strange in Earth 19999.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, what's I can't think of his name. The actor from who actually started the whole Miles Morales thing too.
Donald Glover.
Yeah, Donald Glover. Like two things on that. Like, yeah, it's funny to see him in there dressed as the Prowler. But then is that confirming he is the Prowler in the MCU?
Or became the Prowler after that movie?
He said, I got my nephew. I got a nephew. Does he even say my nephew?
Yeah,
Miles?
he said he had a nephew.
I think he says Miles. He says a nephew Miles.
So he is the Prowler. Like, that is that universe. So there is a Miles in that universe. What becomes of him is the interesting question.
Yeah, and I don't know. One of my favorite other parts was Spider Cat, because that was like, of all the spider people, that's the most that is the most scary spider.
Or the
person.
Spider Dinosaur was
Dinosaur. I thought was pretty cool too. You saw.
Yeah,
you saw
and even when he did the webbing, it said teeth whap.
Those little moments that they have are so great.
There were so many.
They had the Spectacular Spider-Man in there. Right? They have Josh Keaton as the Spectacular Spider-Man was there. They made sure to show us Spider-Man Unlimited, one of the cartoons ever made. Like, it's so bad. But it's fun.
Who is Peter Parked Car?
That was it was the Spider-Mobile.
Yeah,
I know, but that's another Spider-Man. And if you look,
pretty sure it's a gag.
That was a gag because
probably. But if you looked really closely on the rim of the car, on the top was Spider Lego guy. He was on there too. In addition to everybody else they packed.
What did Spider-Man need with a car? Like, the Spider Buggy was one of the weirdest things.
Well, what did Thanos need with a helicopter, right?
Yeah, it's another great one. The 70s were a weird time, man.
Yeah.
We weren't even selling toys. Like,
I'm surprised they didn't have the Japanese Spider-Man mecha.
I think this writes things with that one, to be honest with you.
Probably.
Because I feel like that's why they did Penny Parker, the Spider. Yeah. In that first, because they couldn't quite get the rights to the actual,
Japanese Parker.
Yeah, the kaiju Spider-Man, for lack of a better term. Because that is a fun Spider-Man.
Super Sentai Spider-Man. Actually,
thank you. I couldn't think of the term for it.
All right, my other controversial opinion, because you guys both laughed at it. I like Scarlet Spider. I don't like what they did to him in this movie, because he was not like that in the comics. Come on.
No, it's a gag. I mean, he's played for laughs. I can see that. I thought it was funny, but yeah, Ben doesn't get the best treatment anywhere. Comics, movies.
No, and I said that I was worried
treatment.
When I learned the voice was what's his face, SNL,
Adam Sandberg.
Andy Samberg. I said I'm worried because I think they're going to treat it like a joke, and I was right.
Yeah, he was a joke.
But they also had
joke.
They had old man Spider-Man in there. The guy who was he was the guy who was sitting down. The psychologist who was asking the other guy.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And if you looked, the diploma on the wall said Ditko University.
That's cool. That's cool, man. There's so many. If you're a fan of Spider-Man and a longtime fan of Spider-Man, there's so many little things that you would appreciate. Like Andy couldn't tell any of it, but I was loving it.
As a longtime fan of Spider-Man who's read a lot of the stuff, does Peter B. Parker lose his leg in the next movie?
It's entirely possible.
Yeah, they don't pull punches in this one.
Because
that's the whole story with Mayday is he becomes a police officer because he loses a leg, right? Yeah. So.
And again, this isn't quite canonically that Spider-Man. It ain't close to canonically that Spider-Man. So maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like this is the best version of the. This is a great spin, if you will, on the clone saga. Like the maximum clonage is instead of just you've got a bunch of clones, you get these alternate universe Spider-Mans. What's cool is there's so many times that Spider-Man's been remade. There's no other character this could work with. None.
Who's Chad Paul? Classy's saying I couldn't find Chad Paul
in the movie. I'm hoping he's in the next one. Who is Chad Paul? To the internet, John.
The internet.
I liked the Indian Spider-Man. Like you're right. Like the reversal of like, oh, it's so easy to be Spider-Man.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Different.
He hadn't had the tragedy yet. Like he hadn't had his canon event yet, other than becoming Spider-Man.
The traffic's over here. The traffic's also over here because that's
India. Yeah,
it's a lot of traffic.
I don't know what this one is, but I don't know what I talk about. She's like the Virgin Spider-Man. I have no idea what this is.
Okay,
Chad Paul.
I gotta see it again. Has anybody seen it twice or just once?
Oh no, but I want to go see it again.
I want to see it again. See if I can pick up on some extra stuff.
I might see if I can illegally download it to watch it again.
Hey man, you do what you got to do. We're on strike right now. The DGA going on strike too. It sounds like ain't nothing gonna get done.
Yeah, who was it?
AI is gonna do everything.
By the way,
have you seen? I tried to use. I experimented with ChatGPT here to do some fiction writing. Ain't there yet?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that guy, that Paul. Yeah, not interested.
Yeah. Karen Sony, who did Dopinder in the Deadpool movies, like he was the voice of Pavitar Prabhakar.
He's great.
Yeah, he's funny.
It was funny. Good delivery.
He has very good delivery. That's why he works as Dopinder. Yeah.
And so many voice actors in here, and most of them like the originals when they could get them. It's kind of really freaking amazing.
Oscar Isaac was great as Miguel. He's
played a good actor.
He's just played a bazillion comic characters at this point.
That's the other thing I do find interesting about the movie though, right? Like all of the spider people to a certain point are willing to just follow him without questioning. And
they know what they were doing. They know that what was happening was wrong. You know?
But what I'm getting at is like Peter is a scientist at heart, right? Like that's what he went to school for. It's why he invented the webs and all that stuff. So you'd think his scientific mind at some point would question, like, well, wait a minute. Do all these canon events have to happen? Like, what's going on? What's making this happen?
Well, of all of them, O'Hara was like, he's from a future version, right? Like him or Penny would be the ones to be able to do the calculations better than anyone else. But O'Hara is the one that's pushing this.
O'Hara's not necessarily a scientist, right? I don't think he was in the book.
He worked for Alchemex.
Right.
Pretty sure he was. It's been a while since I've read Spider-Man 20.
He's the one who gave himself his powers, right?
Do you think these movies will push Disney to make good Marvel animated movies?
No, there's no financial incentive for Disney to do that. There just isn't. They're not interested. They did not buy Marvel to make cartoons. Big cartoons. They bought it to make movies.
No, and there hasn't been any good Marvel cartoons in a long time, unfortunately.
Since they bought it, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like they're just not interested in it. Like they'll do some stuff for the kids, right? I'm surprised we haven't had more stuff for the kids.
True.
Actually, like the Spider-Man cartoon show, the last one was pretty solid. Right?
That one had Miles in it, though, didn't it?
No, that The Amazing Friends. That one, oh yeah, it did have Miles in it. Yeah. It did. It was. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I enjoyed it.
I only caught bits and pieces. I don't think I have any more notes for this. Like it's just too much going on. Like the way this ends is like, I mean.
All right, I'm trying to remember too, like because I saw it Friday, but you just saw it, John.
I saw it Thursday.
We have which Spider-Men are there with her at the end? I know
the original group. So Spider-Ham is there.
Yeah.
And Noir Spider-Man and
Noir was there.
Penny
I couldn't
Parker.
remember. I knew Penny was there definitely. I couldn't remember if Noir was there. Or not.
Yeah, Noir is there.
So is Spider-Punk.
Spider-Punk is there. Hobie Brown, and so is.
But how did he get there if he gave Gwen his?
Well, she went over and picked him up.
She could do that. She could pick him up.
It was also what's her name? Spider Bite. Amanda Stanberg, Margot Kess was there too.
Which Spider-Bite
she
was that?
She was the one that was trying to disable the machine that was sending him back home.
Oh, yeah.
She finally didn't press the button to reboot it and let him get away. Apparently, she realized that this didn't feel right either, so she was joining them as well. I think there was one or two more. I have to watch this again. I really got to watch this again.
Okay, so Kassan's arguing it. That's odd. If Spider-Verse 2 continues on its course, it can beat Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Why not make profitable movies? Because it's lightning in a bottle, I think, with animated movies.
They don't. I mean, like in Marvel, Disney has its formulas, right? When Disney figures out a formula to something, they stick with it. Like right now, they're still developing their bread and butter, their animation. Right now, they're also doing live action to their old animation, and they bought Lucasfilm to do Lucasfilm stuff, and they bought Marvel to do Marvel stuff.
It might inspire Sony to do more animated movies, take more chances.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think there's a better chance of that happening than Disney. Disney's just like, because again, they only make one of those animated movies at a time, and they take years to do.
Yeah.
Like I think they're more interested in their fairy tale IP than doing something Marvel.
Yeah, especially one like this with all the different art styles and everything. I mean,
it's a lot going on.
The fact that the first one ever got made has got to be some kind of miracle. You know?
So
how many people would have had to just say, you know what, this looks cool, let it go, considering how much interference there is from the studios these days? Like the fact that we're lucky to be seeing these movies being made and that they are this good. It's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, really, you know?
So the end of the movie, not the cliffhanger. I mean, not the middle part, not the very end where they're all standing there and it flashes to be continued. The twist, right? Like,
yeah, I didn't catch on until way too late in that one.
I was gonna say, did you catch on? Like, oh, it sent him to the wrong universe because
it took me a minute.
by the DNA of the spider, not the DNA of the person.
When I figured out why, but it took me a little while to figure it out. It took me like 3. When she goes like, "Oh, you're like playing dress up," and that's when it hit me. I'm like, "There is no Spider-Man." Oh, yeah.
See, I only thought there was something weird about that until Spider-Gwen like got into his room and it's like, well, she's in the room and he's not there. What the? Oh,
no, it took me a little bit
that's
longer
not
to figure
good.
it out than that.
Yeah,
I was so interested. I was so interested in the moment with Miles and his mom. That's where all my focus was. Like,
Yeah.
it was such a good moment that just had such an awkward finish because it had to. It could only have had an awkward finish.
So here's the thing. I thought the scene was odd because as a parent, and if I was going to write that scene, and if it wasn't a twist, it's like she would have said something about him being grounded, or did he catch up with the girl? Like,
right, and she didn't.
And she
You're
didn't.
Right.
It was just like, they just started talking, and then he's like, "All right, I'm going to tell you what's up with me," So I'm not saying I caught on right away, but like it fell off. Like from the moment they started talking, I'm like, something's not right here.
Unintentionally off. Yeah. It was like, there was something weird about it, but I didn't put my finger on it at first. Especially when you have a teenage character, they're so selfish, right? They're so focused on what they want to do that it makes perfect sense that Miles would have been completely oblivious to the fact that he was in a completely different universe.
And that the room was different when he walked in from his room.
It was different. It was different. But again, he's so selfish. Like, and again, it's all 15, 16-year-olds are so self-centered. They're literally the center of their own world.
Okay.
But then he also had a lot going on at that point.
He did have a lot going on. I'm not denying that.
Classy wants to know, we're going to be getting Black Cat in any Spider-Man movies. It's time for her to shine.
You want a controversial opinion? I don't think ever, because Black Cat is a ripoff of Catwoman, and that's how she'll come.
Miles' mom is hot. Miles' mom is
hot.
Animated character. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot
who's drawn to be
pole.
hot. She's drawn to be hot. At least canonically, Miles' mom is hot too. Unlike Aunt May, who's never canonically hot, who's now hot actually.
Right.
Yes.
Now nobody wants an unhot May.
Why have unhot May when you've had hot May?
Right. Exactly.
That's it.
Well, it's funny. Like they kind of started that a little bit in the Ultimate universe. They made her a little younger and a little more like health conscious to stay, up and about.
To be fair, May was always obscenely old for how young Peter was.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that was always weird.
Yeah. But I think like at one point they said she was his great aunt too, and then I think they didn't make that canon, but I do remember them doing that at one point as well.
Because they had to explain why Peter's aunt is 80 years old and he's 16.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, the connection between his mother and him, like the conversations, the dialogue between them,
was really good.
Really, like hits you in the heart.
Mm-hmm. Really well written.
Like the writers on this were amazing. This alone
Lord and Miller
should be the reason why they get more pay.
Lord and Miller, and they're producers too.
Yeah.
Also, just to point this out real quick, most people don't realize this. Aunt May is not his aunt by blood.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that posted the other day, and I'm like, yeah, of course she's not. Her last name's Parker, and she's the woman. She took the man's name, but I guess people don't think that way anymore.
Mark Millar, in the early 2000s, wrote a romance comic book about the beginning of Peter, about May and Uncle Ben's relationship. It was
oh dear goddess,
quite a thing. Quite a thing.
Something that nobody asked for, probably.
No, God, no. And this is why Marvel very quickly went, not canon.
Yeah.
And Kassan says, very busy grandparents can explain it, JD.
My wife's grandparents had like 12 grandkids. So
exactly.
Or 12 kids, excuse me.
Right. So that can explain it. And then that would explain why that Peter's parents only had one kid, because they had too many.
Still a little on the wonky side. And to be fair, we were trending this way because Sally Field was definitely younger, than the woman whose name escapes me, Rosemary Harris, who played Aunt May in the first Spider-Man movies.
And
so
then,
we trended. Then we got Marissa Tomei, who's not young, but
But
it's
she's
just
hot.
aging fantastically.
Marissa Tomei was always kind of
Yes.
amazing. So.
Yes. Even
Poor
ridiculous,
Happy.
even as ridiculous as she looked in My Cousin Vinny. Still
Yeah,
hot.
well, that was my introduction.
You ever heard the
and was it the Baboon Heart? I think it was.
What?
I think the Baboon Heart was another
Okay.
movie.
Oh, I never saw that.
let's turn it on you guys. What is something you didn't like about this movie?
Yeah, Dave's right. It's a little long. But as I thought about, like, you know what? He actually has a point. It is. I liked it, but it is long. Like, we had a 5:30 movie, and we didn't get out till 8:30. You know, because I looked up post credit sequence. There's no post credit sequence, but my child's been raised on post credit sequences, so we had to sit there because he didn't believe me.
My theater didn't get the note, the memo on that, and they didn't turn the lights on at the end of the movie. They were waiting to turn the lights on after like a mid credits
because that's how we've all been trained for decades now.
They left the lights down until it got to the post credit thing where it just said the title card for the next movie, and then the lights came on, and I'm like, really? And then I looked it up. I was like, oh, there's no post credit scene. You know.
See, I do that now for every movie. I quickly grab my phone and I Google title post credit scene just to see if that's a thing. And he didn't believe me. He's like, no, Dad,
we didn't get our treat. We didn't get our treat. We're trained to get that treat.
Yes,
we didn't
exactly.
Get it.
And I'm like, oh my God, they've broken generations of movies. It's a little long. I don't think it's bad, but it's a little long.
All right, John.
Yeah.
It's got to be something you didn't like.
No, I walked out of this theater. I saw it with my neighbor. It's like, I cannot think of anything about this I didn't like. This is my favorite Marvel movie.
It's mine
made
too,
by
I
Sony.
think, right now. It might be my favorite Marvel movie at this point.
Yeah.
I really like Guardians 3. I mean, like, I really, really like this movie.
I like Guardians 3 too, but this held my attention much harder. Like,
it's a different kind of movie.
True. So again, partially my personality, this is the one I tend to. But yeah, I like even with Endgame and Guardians of the Galaxy 3, this is my favorite.
Yeah, I can't argue it.
It automatically loses points for not having Nathan Fillion in it.
He could have been in it. He's in everything.
He is in everything. That's what I'm saying.
Could have been the
cast list for the cast
could have been the
list for
bagel.
this is so long he could be in here somewhere.
Maybe he was the bagel.
He's the bagel. Nathan, let's just start that rumor.
We're gonna start that rumor. Nathan
played the bagel.
Played the bagel in Across the Spider-Verse. Everyone who's watching can make sure you put that on out on Twitter and
create a hashtag Nathan Fillion bagel. There's a comic that May is his biological mother and Richard is still dead because Ben couldn't have. I think that's what this was, this story that Miller wrote. I don't know if there's another one out there. It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea all the way around.
I should have mentioned this before. I was thinking maybe we should start these reviews now by mentioning the writers first, considering the writers' strike.
I mentioned them, Lord Miller.
Yeah, no, you mentioned him several times, but the cast list on this is huge because there's so many
characters,
so many cameos, too.
All right, well, we beat this to death.
Sure.
So it's what we do. We take a topic and we squeeze every last drop of blood from it so that all that is left is a withered husk of a topic.
And then no one cares anymore. All right, let's go around the room.
Not even us.
Oh, just by the way, the Mr. Tomei movie, it wasn't The Baboon Heart. It was based on the book called The Baboon Heart. It's called Untamed Heart. You should see it. It's good. Anyway, go ahead.
Isn't that like a romance movie?
It is kind of a romance movie.
That's a weird title for a romance story. The Baboon Heart?
Well, that's the name of the book it was based on. It's called Untamed. The movie is called Untamed.
Is it about someone who gets like a heart transplant or something like that?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
It's about falling in love with bamboos. Bamboos.
No.
Bamboo?
The
bamboo.
Is it a movie about panda bears?
The Baboon Heart. Jeez. Okay.
All right. Well, monkey,
That's the name of the book.
monkey love aside, let's go around.
Let's
let's wrap this up. Final thoughts and give us a score 1 to 10 flips. And John, you can go first.
I'm giving it 10 out of 10. Like there was no point in this movie where my attention wavered. There were several points in this movie where I'm like, oh, that's and I had to restrain myself because I don't like being the guy in the movie theater that talks. And just like when I got to the end, I was kind of disappointed. I really cannot wait to see the next movie. I need to see how this ends. So yeah, no, this is right next to Endgame, which is my favorite, I think. Yeah, next to Endgame, this is now my favorite, like over Endgame or everything else. I just there is nothing in here I could point to. There's no continuity error I could think of. Like just nothing bothered me. I just was totally engrossed the entire time. So that's it.
John? I mean, JD?
I'm JD. I will give it a 9.75.
Whoa.
I don't know. 10. It just seems like a 10. It just seems like it was a little long. 9.75. And it's a to be continued. I was so like, when we hit the to be continued at the end. I was, I gotta come back. 9.
In a year.
Thank God it's only a year, because I was like, oh my God, if they maybe wait another 5 years for this, I'll kill somebody.
No, from my understanding, they were making both of them at the same time. So
thank God.
Yeah. All right,
Dave.
It's okay. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It is not the best movie I've ever seen. I'm also going to say,
Gwen Stacy was not in this movie. David would be like 10 out of 10.
I'm also going to say, as always, when it's a two-parter, a lot hinges on do they stick the landing in the second part, which we haven't seen yet. I'm not saying they won't, but there's always a possibility they do something in the second one. It's like screws everything over. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. 7 thwips out of 10. Yeah. It's passing grade. It's definitely not in my top Marvel movies. Never will be in my top Marvel movie. Sorry. Just not going to happen. And
someday we'll figure out what happened to your soul, man.
Gwen Stacy became a superhero, and Dave has never been the same since.
Next week is Transformers. Bring back Michael Bay to save the franchise. I'm being serious.
This summer is not fair. I want to go back and see the Spider-Verse movie, and now like there's a really good, finally a good Transformers movies I want to see. You know, like what the hell, man?
Oh wait, did we decide on this? Are we reviewing the Transformers movie next week?
Well, no, I want to see that movie. Like I
do too, but I don't know if I'm like, because the kid loves Beast Wars, so we're going to.
Considering we have done a couple of the other ones, but we haven't done them all.
Did we? I don't
Before
remember
your time.
doing them.
Oh, okay. Because we haven't done one since I've been here.
I probably buried those memories then.
I don't think we've done them since, but we have done a couple of them on this.
Do we have another idea for next week? It's a good genre summer, to be honest with you. It's like if you like genre movies, especially compared to last summer, this is a good summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Possibly. Let's think about it for a second. While I'm thinking about it, let's go around the room. Got any recommendations, or did you learn anything on the podcast this week besides I have taste? JD, you can go first.
Tastes like the boots of someone who's been walking in like CBGB in 1977, just like licking the bottom of someone's Doc Martin. That's your taste
of the kid in the movie that was licking the window on the train.
About that,
you shouldn't do that, kid.
What did I know? I didn't learn nothing this week. I do love talking about these things with you guys. I do love getting into it and talking about movies and being like, you're crazy. Like, it's fun. It is more fun when we have different opinions on a movie. Do I have a recommendation this week? Because I recommended Blood and Fire last week. I finished that up. Nope. I've been wrestling all week, so I've done nothing cool and seen nothing cool except for this. Spider-Verse. Go see Spider-Verse.
All right, John.
Now, I literally have nothing to recommend except this as well. This is more than worth it to watch it, and it's good for kids too. There's just the action is frenetic the whole time, and kids won't get bored. So it should be a very easy watch. The only thing being the length of time you are going to take them to the bathroom at one point or another. But otherwise, yeah, it's good for everybody. It's good for all ages.
All right. Make sure you announce. Oh, your pick on Twitter. JD, I like your scary mask right behind your door.
Sting.
Yes.
It's professional.
That. Like you said, scary.
I wore it for Halloween 2 years ago. It's my favorite.
Well, I will recommend. Well, actually, first I learned that there's no accounting for taste around here.
No, sir, there is not.
I would recommend if you're watching this right now and you're not subscribed, click that subscribe button. Make sure you click that bell for notifications so you know when we go live on Sunday nights. I have no other real. I recommend you go to superheroespeak.com where you can find the podcast every week. Links to all our social media at the top of the page, and of course, comic book reviews by our good friend Kristen, and so much more. And yeah, we're gonna have to do 2 more movies in a row, guys.
What else we got? What's the following week?
Flash.
We gotta do Flash.
Yeah, there's no.
Guys, do you see the last Flash preview?
Which one? The one that focuses on Supergirl?
No, I didn't see that one. I saw the one that premiered with because we in the Spider-Verse I went to got a different Flash trailer than I had seen before.
Yeah, they did that here too. So probably out just now.
Oh yeah. You're right.
It looks.
I'm gonna get my woke status revamped because man, this movie looks awesome. And Ezra Miller looks pretty good in it, to be honest with you. He may be a sociopath, but he's pretty good as this particular version of Barry Allen.
I know, right? Like they must have like had a psychiatrist and a psychologist sitting there, like just holding his hand through the whole movie.
No, he went crazy after filming it. So they clearly weren't doing that during the making of this movie.
No, well then afterwards,
now Warner Brothers is like, you stop this shit right now.
Well, he's obviously under house arrest, like because he
probably is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. I recommend that you go see Transformers: Rise of the Beast for next week, because that's what we'll be talking about. Because come on, Andy wants to see it. You got to take Andy.
He does want to see it, so
yes,
might as well.
Yes,
might as well. Justify
all right.
Yes.
And on that note, boys and girls, as always, thanks for watching. Don't let your cape be caught in the door. Have a good week.